We're done drafting for about 3 weeks. The big board is about to start. Dynasty rookie drafts are not even that far away. We got to get ready for the big board. Guys, let's figure out what's going on with the incoming rookies for fantasy football in 2025. It's Short King summer, dude. It just feels like no one in fantasy sports ever learns anything. Does he mistime it, or is Brock Bowers just a grown man? Brock Bowers is just a grown man. Dare I say, Rich, football might be back. In the words of Lane Johnson, this offense looks constipated. It's Short King summer. All right, Karain, this is kind of back to our bread and butter. I mean, even before best ball got that big, this was kind of what we did. Like I'm thinking about like kind of how I cut my teeth, like the RotoViz stuff. Like this really is like, this is kind of what I love about fantasy football, figuring out.
For me, not just cut my teeth, but like grew teeth, that I wanted to be even in this space was because I got so obsessed with dynasty football. I was really into fantasy football, really into, traditional redraft and stuff. I took my league seriously and everything, but dynasty is when I got like fully obsessed, and I was like, why was I reading about fantasy football every day? Because of my dynasty leagues. And I like wanted to get an edge, not just on that year, but the future years, and, know the rookies coming in and all of that. So I've never actually been that big of a college football guy. So for me, it's more about like the, playing catch up, doing deep dive on these guys as prospects, and then, trying to get the jump on the other NFL focused guys in my leagues.
Yeah, it's very fun. I love Dynasty. I mean, now we have the big board, so like honestly, just like knowing the rookies, knowing where the rookies are likely to go in the NFL draft, all of these are, I think they're all. It's very useful. There is a little bit of a problem when you start doing it too early. You kind of get an anchoring effect, so you do want to avoid that. Like just because
That's
you
true.
really like. Case in point, one for me, Chuba Hubbard. I just it's like, oh my God, Chuba Hubbard, he's so good.
Not wrong, just early.
Yeah, not wrong, just early. But we're gonna just kind of go through some of the top rookies, some of the guys who I think are going to be relevant in redraft. Basically, today I don't think we're gonna do Cam Ward and Shadur Sanders today.
We can if you want.
I just don't have super strong opinions on them yet, but we definitely can if it leads that direction. This is just, I just did like a really loose, I kind of went through some of the profiles, started to think about landing positions. These are like the guys I have in conversation to be first round rookie picks right now. Tetairoa McMillan. I'm probably low on Loveland, actually. Loveland might even go in the first round of the NFL draft, but I
think you're really low on Loveland compared. I think. Well, we can talk about it. We can talk about it when we get to it, but that does strike me as low.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, and I even did these a week ago, so I haven't even had a ton of time yet to talk. But let's start with the guy who is, I think, actually probably going to go first overall. Yeah, immediately. JJD says Tet over Jeanty. And
do you want to just do like a real quick, like what's your thought on this? As this was one of the things in Dynasty when I was first starting, like we'd always hear trade your picks because the next draft class is going to be amazing. That was like, and then we heard that for like 4 years in a row. And you're like, I think at some point we should just pick because sometimes there's good guys in this draft class. But is this like one of those, draft classes where you'd actually think about doing something like that? Like, is this a weak draft class?
It's definitely a weak draft class. So if you look at my board right here, Tet would have definitely been, a top 5 pick in last year's class. Jeanty, definitely a rookie pick. Tet and Jeanty definitely would have been. Now, these are super flex tight end premium rankings because those are the leagues that I play the most in. So Tyler Warren is getting a bump, and I think I will move Loveland up in my next update. And Caleb Johnson, I watched him, and I've just been reading some about him. I think Caleb Johnson is he might even end up being a first round pick, actually. Caleb Johnson, he's like 225. Like, I think he's probably going to run. He might even run because he's got 8 weeks to train. He might even run a 4.4. but at like 215 or something at the combine. After that, though, Egbuka, 4-year player, slot only. Luther Burden, I mean, it's like, my God, we are the Luther Burden wars are gonna. There's gonna be good people on both sides.
Yeah.
We can get.
I'm not sure where I'm gonna fall because he looks pretty decent in some of my stuff and horrible in other stuff. So I'm like, he seems very boom bust is really what it comes down to. He's used kind of gadgety, kind of slotty, but like he was a really good recruit and he's a 3-year early declare with some production. So, and he's going to go first round.
This is my read of the whole class. Tier 1, Tet, Jeanty, Warren, very strong. Tier 2, this is about as bad of a year as you could find to have the 107 through the 112 in your
yeah
thing.
Yeah, I almost feel like right. It's like I don't even think tier 3 is like strong. I think tier 3 is fine again. And then tier 4 is going to be super strong. Because tier 4 in tier 2, I think in tier 3, I think you're going to be drafting tier 3 players. And in tier 4, I think you're going to be drafting tier 3 players. To me, it's sort of like that the tier 3 of this class is very deep. But it's not super, super deep because I don't think the wide receiver class. This is the first year in like 4 years that we haven't had a really deep wide receiver class.
The wide receiver class is, I mean, some of it is going to obviously depend on landing spot. There will be a late riser the way there always is. Like if we had done this show last January 13th, even with the season Leggett had, we would not have started to think of Leggett as a guy who was we would have thought Leggett was a day 3 pick, probably in the draft. A couple risers I could potentially see at the wide receiver spot. I think Xavier Restrepo from Miami could potentially be like a
route runner. Teams could love him.
McConkey is the bad comp because McConkey went to Georgia, but he is like kind of the exact fit of what teams want in the NFL right now, where he's going to just be super reliable. He is going to be an awesome slot wide receiver. He's going to be like a day 1 starter. I think teams at wide receiver are going to start placing a lot of emphasis on that. Guys who can just come in and play day 1, game 1, and be ready to go. He's a 5th-year player, but this is, I think, Corinne, the biggest thing with this class is outside of some of the wide receivers who are going to declare early, I'm like no longer penalizing guys for being 4-year or 5-year players. I'm like basically because COVID changed everything in 2 ways. The first being for guys who are not first round picks, you can make 3rd round rookie wide receiver money at college. Like I'd have to look up what Restrepo made, but I bet he probably made pretty good money last year at Miami. And guys, the COVID stuff just like hid guys effectively. Like COVID just like hid players from like if you were a Pac-12 guy, you just lost 2 years. You just like straight up lost 2 years of your college career.
Yeah, although that's sort of winding down, because those years would be early. I think the biggest impact seasons are behind us. Although, it would affect the recruiting process and stuff.
It would be freshmen though. Think about it. The COVID stuff would impact like how many 8 like freshmen, 18-year-old breakouts were missed by COVID,
Yeah, but a lot of these guys would have redshirted anyway, if you're a 5th-year guy. I think not that it won't have an impact, but I do think it's probably we've already seen the majority of the impact, I would think. Unless it affected the recruiting process in a big way, which I really don't know.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And I might be a little bit light on Restrepo. Isaiah Bond might just go back to college.
But like to Restrepo, I mean, that would be Restrepo, I think, looks like an interesting guy. If he's a 2nd round pick in the NFL draft, then I'd be like, yeah, he's pretty interesting as a 2nd round pick in rookie drafts. There's not a ton of guys at the wide receiver class where I'm like, if the NFL loves this guy, then I'm going to love this guy. It's a lot of like traits that are intriguing. Like Isaiah Bond is another guy where it's like, man, he's really fast. They never really like put it together. I think he transfers to Texas and it's like, oh, now we'll put it together. This will be the year. And kind of didn't, or at least not as much people were hoping. So Yeah, I mean, there's interesting like deep threat guys. You know, there's some Paul Richardsons and KJ Hamlers in this class, guys we'll
Oh,
talk ourselves into as deep
the
threats that,
best.
yeah, probably won't do a ton, but there's guys who like struggled with injuries, and we can kind of say maybe have additional upside beyond what they showed at the college level. Um, but you're doing a lot of squinting at the wide receiver class, including like
So much squinting.
at the top.
Even
Tet
even
might-
Tet, even Tet, I believe his contested catch rate was number 1 in Power 5 schools, which is uh you've seen
contested
the
target rate,
contest. Oh my god. Yeah, that's not ideal. So now I don't want to say, oh, Tet stinks, right? He's terrible. I
but he
don't want to
doesn't
say
really
anything like
separate
that.
that much.
So you've seen that be wins, right? Alshon Jeffrey, a guy with like crazy, like all of his stuff was contested, but you also get the horror stories. Anyone remember JJ Arthega Whiteside? Uh,
Yeah,
basically the biggest issue is you get with these guys where, okay, you can dominate 19-year-olds who weigh 175 pounds. Are you going to be able to dominate NFL level cornerbacks? And by and large, the answer has been no. By and large, that is the hardest skill set to translate. Whereas the Restrepo skill set, I mean, that's easy. You know exactly the role he is going to play
right.
in the NFL. I think Pearsall is a good lesson for a lot of these guys where Pearsall was never super productive, but clearly the NFL valued what Pearsall did, which is like he just got open, he separated, he was capable of playing out of the slot, he could play outside, like both those things. But let's let's place Jeanty in like the overall stratosphere of dynasty rankings first. So let's just talk about
Okay.
Jeanty as a prospect. Is he Bijan Robinson? Is he Ezekiel Elliott? Is he a tier lower? Is he a tier higher? Do you have any concerns? So let's just do Pat Corain's branded take on Ashton Jeanty.
So yeah, I talked about this being kind of a weak draft class, and picking holes. Picking nets at kind of even guys at the very top. None of that applies to Gene T. Gene T, I think, is an excellent prospect. I think very much deserving to be seen as one of these guys in the same tier. Like we can debate about whether or not he should go in the first round, but the idea, that Gene T would go in the first round, if any running back is going to go in the first round, is not surprising at all. Like this guy belongs. Um, I think, he is kind of in that Bijan tier. I think Bijan was probably a slightly better prospect, but like not meaningfully so. I think the other thing to think about Gene T is that when we're in this time of year, we're imagining the landing spot being Dallas or some other place where there's
Chicago.
a huge open Chicago, exactly. Huge opening, no one that we're really even concerned about. By midseason, he's completely dispatched the competition and he owns the backfield. But that's not how it goes a lot of the times. A lot of
No,
times
no,
they
it's
end up
not.
with like someone that's like it's shocking, that this player that a team takes a guy of this caliber, and then there was already someone there that looks good and probably is going to have a role. Um,
Falcons,
GT's
Falcons, Falcons taking Bijan after Algier
Falcons
has
taking
1,000
Bijan.
yards as a 5th-round rookie.
Exactly. Yeah. Um, he is a guy. I mean, even Gibbs the Lions taking Gibbs when they had Montgomery, like that kind of stuff is like,
Yes.
so Gene T is the type of talent where even if that happens, I'm not really going to care.
Yeah.
Like I think that's like one way to think of, like, to me, he's the super flex 101. I would take him above all the quarterbacks without really much hesitation. I would easily take him over like Tyler Warren in tight end premium easily. I'm taking him over Tet like pretty easily. What it would
The
have to
question for me is, does Tet, because it is a weird draft class and because there are so many teams with young quarterbacks who need a wide receiver, like there are scenarios where Tet ends up in a crazy good landing spot. Now, again, it's pretty early. I've got a lot of time to think about this stuff. And Tet, I mean, don't get me wrong, Tet could actually be a huge faller. If Tet runs a 4.52 at the combine. I mean, he could be he could end up going in the NFL draft where Brian Thomas Jr. went. Like everyone right now in mock drafts, like, oh, he might go 1, or wherever
Right.
the Patriots pick. I think the Patriots pick 4. He might go 4. I mean, Tet, with the way he plays, could be a legit faller. Now, this is where I'm at with Jeanty. Basically, this profile of guy is they do not miss in the NFL. They just simply do not miss. These are the RotoViz sim score comps without any weight or 40. And it's every dude who, some of them stunk, but all of them got opportunities, right? So we have Bijan, we have Melvin Gordon, we have Dobbins, we have Elliott, we have McCaffrey, like every guy that you would anticipate to be in there. Donald Brown being number 1 is really funny
It's not
on this
not
list.
great, but
you got to put the weight and stuff in there. Yeah.
The NFL loves this guy. The film community loves this guy.
Just watch him, dude. He's unbelievable.
He broke tackle. Like you look at the numbers. He's amazing elusiveness. Broke a ton of tackles and got yards after contact on a big workload. You look at I like to look at the elusiveness instead of per touch, but per game. Excellent there. Breakaway yards in terms of a percentage of his total rushing yards looks good. Breakaway yards per game looks great. Yards per route run 1.58. That's pretty strong for a college running back. Not like true elite stuff, but pretty good. Had like a solid role as a receiver as well. Handled a big part of the backfield, especially at his peak. But like, was this guy? He's not like the biggest running back. I would say is like the only kind of like mini knock, but he handled a big workload, and the size is really more about like the height. Like he's kind of not like, I'm guessing he's not going to be at the NFL level like a huge breakaway runner. He's going to be more of kind of like a chunk play guy.
You know what he's going to be like, Pat? He's going to be like if Kyron was really, really good.
That's exactly right. It's sort of like Kyron or Josh Jacobs, but like a little Josh Jacobs with more juice.
Jacobs with more. I've been researching these guys, and I've been watching some film. Contact balance. That is the big thing with him. Is the first defender to hit him very rarely gets him on the ground. He just did it right there. Like the first defender to kind of go at his ankles or his, like, if you don't get him square on the first one, he's just not going down. And he's actually a really interesting story. Basically, the reason
bigger
why
MJD maybe.
Bigger MJD. Yeah. The reason why he was at, do you know why he was at Boise State and not at like Bama or whatever? So he played high school football in Italy. His dad was in, I don't remember if it was the Navy or the Marines or whatever, but his dad was stationed overseas. And so he had to play his college football. Like I read the story in The Athletic. It was like they would have to drive on a bus like 8 hours to go play against another naval base's high school. And he didn't come back.
God.
He didn't come back to Texas until his junior year and only got to, and didn't even start for his junior year high school team. So basically he just kind of like was a blank spot in recruiting. And then he got huge, obviously after his sophomore year, he got crazy NIL deal. Sophomore year, 1,400 yards, 14 rushing touchdowns, 80% of the rushing production. Actually more efficient as a receiver his second season. They used him less as a receiver last year. I assume that's quarterback related. I have to look into it a little bit more. But basically he got these huge NIL offers and he's like, no, dude, I was nothing. I was a 0-star recruit and Boise State wanted me. I am staying. I think he was a 3-star recruit, but like, I'm staying here. They wanted me. I want them, which is pretty cool.
It is pretty, and the NFL will love that. Yeah, I think I just have a really hard time seeing how he's not the Superflex 101. Like it would, I just don't know what could change that. Like he'd have to.
I'll throw.
He'd have to bomb the combine. Is really.
I'll throw a couple things out where he could not be. One, he runs like a 4.56.
Yeah. Even then, I don't think I care. 4.56 is fine. If he's 4.6,
I do not care. I do not care at all. To me, but
If he
there
was
are
205, that's if he was like small, because he's listed at 215, I think. If he was like 205 and ran a 4.6, that's where I'd start to care. But that's sort of the line. And I don't think that's gonna happen.
Is there a landing spot where Tet could go? I'm looking at it. I probably not. Maybe Cincinnati at 17 would be the only one that I could think of. Like
I
they
don't think
used he's not going to go that late, so this is like sheer this is just like total
okay, but like
conjecture.
think through if you let's say T. Higgins signs a long-term deal with the Bengals and Jamar Chase
Oh,
signs a long-term deal with the Bengals.
in that example, he's not
No,
on.
no, I know. I know
Yeah.
T's gone in your example, but just think through with me. Chase and Higgins both re-sign long-term with the Bengals. And now try to take T. Higgins and trade him for the Superflex 101 to get Jeanty. It's not gonna be enough. People aren't gonna trade Jeanty away for what we would hope what McMillan would become in Cincinnati. Like if he becomes T. Higgins, that's awesome.
Yeah.
T. Higgins is awesome. But it's not enough. Like people
It's not enough.
when you look at Jeanty, you're looking at it, and I think as well, like we've still got a number of running backs putting up a lot of fantasy production at advanced ages from older classes, Mixon, Jacobs. I like the young guys. So advanced ages, these guys aren't ancient, but like Barkley, they're all second contract guys.
Right.
And they're going to age out. And it's like who's left to build an entire team around Bijan. Brees looks even a little shakier than he did to enter this year. There's not a ton of
Brees.
guys.
I think Brees looks much shakier. Yeah.
Yeah, Gibbs.
Yeah.
Gibbs would be. It's like who do you feel like is truly an asset, like a blue chip dynasty asset at the running back position?
Bijan, Gibbs.
Bijan and Gibbs. That's it. And the nature of the position is that it's sort of always going to feel like that because we're always going to get burned by guys. Jeanty, when you think about heading into next season, the chances of him just being like the 103, the first, maybe not in Superflex, he won't be the 103, but like
he could be the 108.
108. Yeah. Sorry. I got a little carried away. 108, running back one. The overall running back one in Dynasty. Like that,
I could see immediately when I do my like post draft rankings, if Jeanty goes to the Chicago Bears, to the Jacksonville Jaguars, to the 49ers, to the Cowboys, maybe even to the that's probably about it. I could see immediately already ranking him over Gibbs, assuming that Montgomery's knee does not get worse in the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, the 49ers would be another, that would be like a classic example of like what we don't want to have happen, but would actually be like a situation I would not sweat. Like he goes to the 49ers and you're like, well, he's, the production's going to suck year one. Like he's Kyle Shanahan's running back. Like that's incredible. Like you think like zoom out like a millisecond and you're going to, a millisecond makes no sense. Zoom out a tiny fraction.
No, you are gonna inarguable great landing spot. Like year one, he probably gets 120 rushes and like 19 catches, and you're like, well, so this kind of feels like this is Nyheim Hines for me. And then year two, he is the number one scorer in fantasy, and you're like, oh yeah. This was
imagine he goes to the Rams. People, Kyron, like, no, this is bad for Kyron. Kyron goes to zero.
Kyron is actually a punt returner if he goes
now
to the Rams.
Yeah.
So I think we're pretty aligned. Where big board opens week before the Super Bowl, where we take. I think Jeanty for me, given the fact that he could go to the Cowboys and immediately walk into 300, like Jeanty could lead the NFL in touches next season. I think he's like firm 106 for me. 107, 108, kind of right in that range. Basically where Bijan and Brees were going this most recent year.
Well, that's where they went after they were drafted. I think if you can, we'll see where he opens, but I would love to be able to get him in the early second. To me, that would be so sweet. And when we were going through the Bijan stuff, Sam Sherman was kind of saying in the early second that this was tilted to the downside because, there's kind of the landmine landing spots for Bijan that he didn't really. I mean, as much as we say like, oh, Algier was a good running, but people weren't really concerned about that. They were like, they're going to feed him. They didn't feed him like as much as maybe they would have if they had no one else, but it was still a pretty solid landing spot, not a true landmine. I think there are, like, the 49ers would be an example of like, oh man, this might suck year one. Like McCaffrey's not going to get like just iced by this rookie. Like they're going to be in a committee. I kind of wish I didn't spend like 202 on that.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire's rookie year, he was a first-round pick in Best Ball Mania. He was a first-round pick.
Zeke, I think, was a
Zeke was a first-round
late
pick,
first-round pick in an era where that didn't happen. So
Clyde was like the 1-6 in the main event his rookie season. And obviously Jeanty is like just so much better. And he's not going to have his plum of a landing spot, but yeah, Jeanty is.
I think he'll open at the 1-2 kind of. I don't think you'll have to pay 106 for him.
That is going to be so. Like if he is every time after St. Brown and Jefferson, like every time, and I don't have to make that Sophie's choice. I mean, that is like I will in the first week I will probably have 25% of this guy or whatever. All right, let's get to Tet McMillan. So if you're unfamiliar with his game, he is an early recruit, which we love to see. He is one of these guys that sadly his final season, you have to deal with the most brutal, like just terrible team, bad quarterback play. Like it just kind of all went south for him. 44% dominator rating his final season. That is like, I don't even know if Dez Bryant got the 44% the final season at Oklahoma State. Did he get
50.
there?
He might have been above 50.
All right, Willie Snead is the first one. All right, what do we think is a good 10? You think is that probably a fair draft pick to run the sim score for Tet? So. Oh my God! Look at the first name. Look at the first name. Ugh. Yeah.
Devontae Parker would be kind of stylistically the concern. Michael Floyd would be another guy stylistically that I find concerning. Where like, I don't think that Tet McMillan is going to like truly bust. But I could see where he has like
Drake London. Drake London. The Drake London never really busted, but he never like I guess
Drake London can separate though. It's more like it's more Parker or Floyd where like they have like a good year, but it's not an amazing year, and it's like kind of their third or fourth year. Maybe Floyd was second, but like they just never fully became what we were hoping. And they end up being like solid players on an NFL offense, but just like it's just tough when you can't separate. Now there you're seeing he did separate, and it's still
just like if you're watching him, he's a great route runner, but like the thing that he does, I mean, look, that's a very hard catch. He's got great ball track. Throw. He's got great ball tracking. He's got super soft hands. And once it's kind of like Mike Evans when he gets up to speed, like on these crossers, it's very hard to bring down. And like he's got those long strides. He's not who's the guy? Brandon Lloyd, who just used to catch the ball and fall down. He would just catch the ball. Yeah. I mean, these are some incredible plays. Yeah, if Tet was in last year's class, he definitely goes before Rome. Definitely. I think he goes after.
I don't think so. I don't think from the NFL perspective. I think Rome would have gone ahead of him in the draft. Rome was getting buzz that he might be the 2. Some teams boards he's ahead of Neighbors.
I was going to say there was the report that the Bears would have taken. They said even if Neighbors was still on the board, they were still going to take Rome.
That sounds like something the Bears would do.
So he probably is more. He is probably more BTJ. He is probably more BTJ. Just because it's hard you guys know, you guys watch the NFL every weekend. How many guys who look like this succeed? The guys who look like this who succeed are literal Hall of Famers. It's Mike Evans. It is like these, they don't, DeAndre Hopkins, these big bodied guys who succeed without ever having to separate from their defender. It also, Tet could be kind of, buddy, Tet with Drake May would be amazing.
It'd be awesome.
That's what you want, because May is not afraid. May is not afraid.
That's the thing with him is, I think there's two things with him, or there's three things. One, he's not that big. When we talk about comparing him to Alshon Jeffrey and DeAndre Hopkins, and like these guys got like 20 pounds on him. He's like 210, listed 210.
Yeah.
Like, what is he weighing at the combine? Like, he might be like 208, 206 the combine. Like, this is not a particularly big-bodied receiver for that type of play style.
It's kind of the Troy Franklin problem. Too skinny.
A little bit. He's tall, but he's not like this. He's not Alshon Jeffrey. Like, Alshon Jeffrey was a gigantic man. It's different. So that's a concern. The other thing, though, is that like he is supposed to be, a good route runner and everything. What if he's like a little bit more big slot type? Maybe he's
so anytime you start saying, oh, he needs to go power slot,
I know it's a red flag.
Basically immediately, yeah. So that is
a red flag, but I think he could pull it off. I think he could be kind of
he could.
I've heard Michael Thomas thrown around with him, that kind of thing. I think he could pull that off.
When I put the weight and the 40 in the RotoViz Sim score, it did at least make Drake London his top comp, which is like a huge win probably at the 102 in your rookie draft.
For sure. Yeah, but London I think is more, I guess they're kind of similar, but I think London was seen as like more kind of more quick twitch with the basketball background and the ability to kind of get open a little bit more easily. But yeah, to me, Tet McMillan is like a little boom bust. I still like him. I still think he's a really strong prospect. As the number one wide receiver in the class, he strikes me as a little weak.
It's a little weak. Yeah.
And I think to your point with the Drake May thing, maybe a little bit dependent on landing with the right type of quarterback. Like if he lands with a guy who needs to like see his wide receivers open, that's a potential disaster for him. If he lands with a quarterback who's like very trusting and really into like, getting on the same page with his receiver and working out timing. Here's the deal.
I want him with a good quarterback. I do not want him with the Giants. I don't want him with whatever they're doing with the Browns. I don't want him in New Orleans. I don't want him with the Jets. I don't want him. Carolina would be interesting because Bryce did show some ability here at the end to just just to go and get it. Let's do Tyler Warren, because I think Tyler Warren, with how good Bowers was last year, will be a real flashpoint. I think Tyler Warren will be really, I don't want to say overvalued, but people will be very woke to taking Tyler Warren.
I think he'll be overvalued. I think he's going to be straight up overvalued.
Particularly in the big board, Pat. In the big board, Tyler Warren, what is he going to open at the first day? Like the 5th round or something? Like just like way too early for him because of how good Bowers was.
So I think from a big board and dynasty, I mean, the interesting thing about the big board is that we actually have to, we talk about take lock. Well, there's no more take lock than drafting a team that you can't adjust.
Yep.
Like those takes are literally locked. And when I look at Tyler Warren, he's not a guy that I want to lock in extreme bullish sentiment on, because think about last year with Brock Bowers, didn't test. Oh my God, look at him next to Gronk. What a little wimpy weakling.
Weakling.
This is your hero. This is the guy you're going to go to war with. This guy's, he looks like a 40-year-old accountant next to Gronk. Like, what are we doing? And if he had any athleticism at all, he would have tested. I mean, he's clearly hiding the fact that he's not an NFL caliber athlete, all that, right? Now, I was fading that stuff. That was not me saying that, but there was the sentiment turned against Brock Bowers last year for a pretty decent chunk of the offseason. and it never fully recaptured the hype.
He was the freaking tight end 10, man. He was going after Jake Ferguson.
Yeah. It took Jacob Sanderson reminding me of his incredible ceiling for me to get like super bullish on him in best ball. There was a lot of FUD on Brock Bowers, and a lot of it stemmed from athleticism type of concerns. When I look into Warren, I don't. People don't expect him to be super athletic. That's not like he's like a tight end's tight end. He's like he can do everything. He was
a quarterback in high school.
Okay. I mean, he's fun. Like he's very fun. The tape guys love him.
He's a lefty too.
He's going to be really. Oh, is he? That's interesting. Yeah. He's going to be really highly drafted. So, I'm generally intrigued by him. But as far as like clear-cut number one in the class and on par with Bowers, like this dude is not on par with Bowers.
His comps, I just ran it. His comps could not possibly be any more on the fucking nose. Zach Ertz, Tyler Eifert, Dalton Kincaid, Pat Freiermuth, Hunter Henry, like literally just absolutely on the nose.
These are appropriate comps. Like he's not in what he's a 5th-year guy.
No, only four.
Only four. Okay.
Yeah. Wearing number 44, not helping his draft stock. That is certainly true. I think I'm more bullish on him than you, and I will tell you why. One part of it actually doesn't have anything to do with him. It's my overarching thesis that NFL teams are going to place more value on tight ends who can be on the field to catch passes and run block than ever with this 2 tight end, with the 2 high safety stuff, where having a tight end on the field who can do both, who can be duplicative, is like one of the most valuable guys you can have on your entire offense. And then the other thing is specific, like big board stuff related. I mean, obviously if he's like a 4th round pick or whatever, then I will reevaluate, but all the folks who do the NFL draft stuff, Dane Brugler and all these guys, they're saying NFL teams love this guy. NFL teams,
they're going to love him. Yeah.
They love this dude. And like,
well, you know what NFL teams love? NFL teams love a finished product. NFL teams love a guy that they don't have to like develop and put in the program and do all this stuff. Because you know what? NFL teams suck at that. NFL teams aren't player development programs. They're win game the point of an NFL team is to win games immediately and to do that a lot. Right? They're not trying to they're not thinking 3 years down the line. If we give this guy reps, it'll pay off in 3 years. Like you might get fired.
Dallas Clark in today's NFL would be not Travis Kelce real life football, but Travis Kelce fantasy value. He would be if he churns out a 22% target share wherever he gets drafted as a rookie, you're going to be like, damn, I should have taken 5th round Tyler Warren.
I just don't think that's particularly likely. He's like a very solid. He looks to me like he comes out as like a 2nd round rookie pick type of guy. Like
there's no chance you get him with a 2nd round.
I know you won't. But like his profile just is not that strong. From like he had 15% of Penn State's yards in 2023, which is his only good underclassmen season, and he breaks out as a 4. You're right, he's 4 years.
Well, you know why he only had 15% of the targets? Did people know who
Theo Johnson?
The guy he couldn't beat out for targets and for snaps was Theo Johnson.
Yeah, that's not good.
Now, one of the things that's hard to account for is that I always wonder this with Big Ten guys, basically non-Ohio State guys, and even Ohio State guys are actually hard to evaluate because they play so few competitive games. Like, how do you account for, and one, his quarterback is bad. Drew Aller is bad, but like just a version of football that is not played at the NFL level, just these slugfest, these 19, how many games did
Drew Aller's not bad for a college quarterback.
I guess for a college quarterback, he's not.
He was hardly held back by bad college quarterback play. Drew Aller's there was talk before they lost to Notre Dame that if he were to declare, he'd go first round in this class.
He'd go first round. Yeah.
That's really good to have that guy.
Yeah.
In college.
Yeah. I think I'm probably more pro Warren than you are, just based on what I expect him, not even what I expect him to do in the NFL, but where I expect him to go. I just think
and some of the other stuff, he's somewhere between a late first round and second round rookie pick in my stuff. And I think that, yeah, he's not going to go there. I'm not saying even necessarily like he definitely should go there. I'm with him, like, okay, so last year around this time, I was like, what are we doing with Ladd McConkey? What's the point of, like, he wasn't productive. Like, I know he's a good route runner and all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. Then he was like crazy athletic at the combine. And I just like completely changed my tune because I'm like, all right, I'm being asked to like interpret. I'm being asked to throw out the data and say, look, man, this guy wasn't healthy. He was really efficient on per route stuff. He's at a program with like a lot of other guys, including Brock Bowers. And when you get this guy in the NFL and you say like, you're going to be our top option, get open, he's going to do that really, really effectively. I was like, all right, I'm willing to take that leap of faith now that I know this guy's really athletic. And, then we got all the route, like Matt Harmon loved him as a route runner and all that stuff. Like, it all, the picture you're painting for me, everything's lining up for that to be true. So if that starts happening with Loveland,
what if Warren's a Chief?
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm not saying like I'm definitely going to fade Tyler Warren, but he is, to me, emblematic of the class of like, it's a class where really good late first round superflex picks, late first round superflex pick, where McConkey went. McConkey was at that, right? I want to take this guy where McConkey went, where Brian Thomas went in these rookie drafts, because then I feel like I'm really hitting to the upside with this profile. What worries me about a Warren is I might be taking him if he lands in the right landing spot, we could be talking about him maybe it's like the 103, the 104, depending on how people feel about these quarterbacks. And that it's a little tougher to find upside on that type of price. It very much one of the guys where it's like he's sort of a tier 3 type of rookie pick, I think, that we're going to end up taking at tier 2 prices. That's my initial read. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he crushes the combine and and then I start to get excited.
All right, let's do a guy who I literally somehow it is early January, and I've already gotten in an online argument about this guy. Probably the hardest.
Can we do Travis Hunter?
Oh, sure.
I don't want to skip Travis Hunter because I think this is probably the most interesting conversation in the entire class.
Yeah, I mean, I think in my head I just have decided he's a corner, but I guess Travis Hunter's on the thumbnail, so we probably should. If
Travis Hunter if he said tomorrow, listen, I'm a wide receiver, don't draft me to be a cornerback. I had an epiphany that I'm a wide receiver in my heart, and I'm not going to play cornerback. I'm just going to play wide receiver. Don't draft me if you think I'm a cornerback. Where is he for you in this class?
One, and probably the
one over Jeanty.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think so. He is a 1-of-1 athlete. There's really nothing like what he is. I think. I mean, he's certainly better than Tet. And if he says, I guess the key part about what you're asking is if he says, I'm not playing cornerback, or I only want to play sub packages, but I want to be paid like a wide receiver. I want to be in the wide receiver room. I want to be that's it. I've decided I'm all wide receiver. And he still goes, 1 or top 5 in the NFL draft. That's the NFL telling us that they agree with me. The NFL is saying, yeah, he's that good a wide receiver. I just think there's this thing with him. What is the right way to, like, he's kind of like, to me, like Lionel Messi or something like this, where like, it's like his proprioception. It's like his understanding of space would just make him like, he also would have been a Cy Young pitcher, or he could have been the greatest goalie of all time, or he could have been like a great defenseman in hockey or something, like an all-timer. He just is one of those guys. And like Jeanty's obviously great, but he's not going to, I don't think Jeanty is going to be a Hall of Famer. But like Travis Hunter could just easily be a Hall of Famer, I think.
I mean, he did just win the Heisman, so I'm not gonna dispute it. He would be my wide receiver one.
Yeah.
In this class. And I think one of the things that I've what just kind of hit me over the head as you do this for a while is that, like, at wide receiver, safety is often just upside as well. That when you get a guy who, when we're talking about, highly drafted wide receivers, if a highly drafted wide receiver hits, then they're often awesome, right? And docking a guy for being good but not having quite the ceiling when we're talking about first round picks has been one of the single worst things to do in Dynasty. That's how you miss on Justin Jefferson, who was seen as like, oh, he's kind of more of a slot guy, play some on the outside, but he's not the high upside pick. Is to go like Jalen Reagor or Henry Ruggs. Henry Ruggs is the high upside guy, and when in fact Henry Ruggs was the guy who was an incomplete player, and Jefferson could do everything. So it's like it's too precise. And we're like not that good at it. And then often, maybe the other way to put it is, sometimes upside is just variance and risk. So Treylon Burks is the high upside player. But no, he's the low floor player. The high upside play was actually Garrett Wilson, who's one of the best route runners in the league. So I just think, when you look at Hunter, Hunter's not going to bust. He's going to be a first round, again, in this scenario where he says, I'm a wide receiver. He's a first round wide receiver who I'm certain is not going to bust. He, his movement, his ability to get open, yards after catch, like, it's all there.
He's also going to run like a 4.
Every NFL
he's going to run like a 4-3-6 too.
Yeah. Every single NFL offense has a critical role for a guy like this.
Because he can also be an outside guy or a slot guy. If he chooses not to play defensive back, he'll probably return punts too. Like, he just, I don't know, man. I just,
and I feel difference with him and Tet. I think Hunter could be productive with a Daniel Jones. I'm not worried at all about.
He basically did play with Daniel Jones. Yeah. No disrespect. I think I like Shedeur more than a lot of other people do, but basically, like, well, this is, I think, Pat, this is basically the more important question. What if he doesn't say anything? And he does the wide receiver workouts, he does the cornerback workouts. He says the same thing he said the whole time. I'm playing both. I mean, Dion said on his show like 3 weeks ago, he said, if you take Hunter, don't take him if you're not playing them both. But the thing that you and I have both landed on is, like, it's just too hard in the NFL. It is just, like, not even physically, although obviously it is insanely hard physically, but it also is insanely hard mentally because you got to know both of the systems.
Here's another take on Hunter is that if I was a GM, I would have to feel extraordinarily secure to want to draft Hunter, because your fan base is going to hate you in such a large portion of outcomes with Hunter. Because if you don't play him both ways and he struggles at all in the position that you play him,
fired.
You're going to be like, this guy can't even tell which position the guy is. He thinks he's a receiver, he's a cornerback, this idiot.
No, it'll versa. Be he's like the 23rd best wide receiver in the NFL. He's like Darnell Mooney as a wide receiver. He's fine.
Yeah. You turned the best cornerback in the class into Darnell Mooney, you idiot. right?
Yeah.
Or you turned Garrett Wilson into a league average cornerback.
You turned
moron.
Garrett Wilson into Sauce Gardner, you know.
Yeah. You absolute fool. Or, you're not playing him both ways. If he's going to be league average playing both ways, you dummy. Why aren't you doing that? Or you play him both ways and he gets hurt.
And
now it's like, you can't play players both ways. Don't you know that? There's like so few ways. The only way you like fully win is Travis Hunter is a Hall of Fame player. Like you as a GM, I would just be, now obviously he's an amazing prospect, but I do think the ability for this guy to anger a fan base and have that anger be directed toward the GM is quite high.
I think it's pretty clear, if you're a GM, the right way to do it is fans don't know shit about defense. He's a full-time corner and he gets to play like 11 snaps a game on offense and he gets the ball on 4 of those plays. You basically turn him into Devin Hester, but like if Devin Hester was really good on defense.
That's the safest way to go, because you get to show him off. You get the announcers talking about what this guy, it's unbelievable. What he can do. We just saw him on defense and look at him, he's making plays. That there you get talked up. So that's probably the safest way to go.
He ends up being a strong corner, like not a shutdown corner, not Darrelle Revis or anything, but he's a strong corner. He doesn't like you can't have like a crazy mistake that he makes his rookie year that like loses a game or something. But like he's just, he's good. He has a couple highlight reel interceptions, and then you bring him in like probably like 2-minute drill on offense or whatever, where it's like, hey, just go run. Or like third down plays or stuff, or you give him some screens, and the defense knows he's coming in to get the ball, but it doesn't matter anyways because he's so good.
And he's also the type of receiver that would work well as a sub package guy because he gets open. It's like it's not like if the timing isn't fully synced with his quarterback. Like the chemistry isn't like a 100%. Like he gets open, and he's good. He's gonna be good on screens. He's quick. You don't have to have like it would be tougher if he was like a big bodied receiver who, probably needed to work more on kind of the timing and, timing his route with the quarterback's drop and all of that. Like,
if he was like, I don't know, if he had to play like Xavier Restrepo or something where it was like, or like Jalen Waddle and like, or like if he was on the Dolphins, it'd be like, well, it's just not going to work. If he's in a Shanahan offense, no chance.
Well, you could have a sub package there, but yeah, I think that's probably the way to do it. But okay, knowing that that's a likely scenario, that he's a sub package receiver and full-time cornerback, how the hell do we draft and rank this guy in the big board?
Big board, I think he's just a total, unless he's like a 14th round pick, he's just a total stay away. Because the asymmetric upside at, I don't know, let's call it past pick 120, because you might be getting a guy, like I said, if a team drafts him and says he's a wide receiver, that's it. Travis Hunter, wide receiver. He's wearing.
Where are you taking him in the big board then?
Where we took. I'm trying to think where we took Worthy, basically.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think 5th roundish.
Because 5th round, you still have to understand he's still probably going to play some defense. Like, I think there's just no scenario where he plays no defense, basically.
Yeah.
And there's no scenario where he plays no offense either. But also think about this. If he gets banged up early on, like let's say week 3, he dings his hamstring, he misses a week, he comes back. What's he more likely not? I feel like he's more likely to play on defense and just defense and the offensive stuff, because the offensive stuff will be seen like a gimmick. The offensive stuff will be seen like fancy, like you're trying to ask him to do too much. More likely that he gets trimmed back to defense, I think. I don't know. It's a total for the big board specifically. It's a total.
And if he struggles at cornerback, like they're going to be like this week they kind of kept things easy for him. That putting less on his plate. Yeah, they trimmed the sub package stuff. It's just that guy gets burnt by. I'm trying to think of a derogatory wide receiver. He gets burnt
by Andre Yoshivas for a touchdown in week 4.
I was going to say Jerry Jeudy.
He gets burnt by Jerry Jeudy for a touchdown in week 4. Like Jerry Jeudy goes like 8 for 111 against him. They lose. Next week it will be.
Yeah.
You know, it's back to basics. You know, Coach Dion came in to have a meeting with him. There, you know, he's feeling it out.
Some good comments.
You see it play out.
Hodo Prime says, "What would Arthur Smith do? He would have him as a sub package player on both sides. That's how Arthur Smith would
definitely." Yes, this is not true. I've seen this take out there. Playing him on defense feels like a waste of his talent. Shutdown corners are insanely hard to find, and he was a shutdown corner in college. He really was.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, a confluence here. Tet absolutely smoked him in a game. I think he put up like 14,302 or something like that against him.
Damn.
Yeah. These are the wide receiver comps for, and remember he played at Jacksonville State for a little bit. It's okay. We're gonna rerun these. I mean, look, he's just gonna go 1. I think is where Travis Hunter is gonna go.
No, the quarterbacks are gonna go 1, 2.
Okay, so let's put him in at 3 then.
I think he goes 3.
Well, okay, his positional stuff is fucking all this up. The comps are useless. Well, I guess they're not useless,
Watkins,
but they're
Smith, London, they're not useless. Waddle.
It's the sim score that's off, but everything else looks fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
CD Lamb, like these are this is kind of
who he is.
Yeah.
And his, by the way, his career market share touchdowns per game better than all these dudes other than the literal all-time number prospect, which is Michael Crabtree. Shut down corners, insanely hard to find. If I was a GM, I would want Travis Hunter, honestly. And if I was a GM, if it was up to me, Pat, I would play him both ways, and I would play him as a sub package defender. I'd say you're our wide receiver 3, but you're gonna lead us in targets per route run. He's Josh Downs for me. I'm taking him. He plays only in 11 personnel. I never ask him to run block. If he's on the field during a run play, he just sits down and we play 10 on 11. That's fine. Assuming his defender is, not in the box. And he plays on third downs on defense.
So I like that. I like that a lot. My comps for him, and this is kind of early because we don't have all the numbers and stuff yet, but
there's no combine stuff.
But let's see. Let me see what I put in for draft capital. I have him as the third pick here in my stuff. Number 1 comp, Chris Olave, Brandon Cooks, Jalen Waddle, Rashad Bateman, Calvin Ridley, Marquise Lee, Garrett Wilson, Jerry Jeudy, Justin Jefferson.
That feels which is just fucking insane that those are his comps, and he's also this crazy good corner. I don't know. I think it's as simple as you want good football players on your team. This is how I'm handling him. If he opens up as an 8th round pick in the big board, I will just let that be for other people. If he opens up in the big board going after DeMarcus Robinson, I might have 50. He
won't. There's no way.
It's hard for me to say because I don't really know who the big board thought leaders are. Like, what is Peter going to be saying on his streams? Where are you going to have him?
The guy won the Heisman. Like he's not under the radar whatsoever. And
he's not. But you are seeing. I mean, like all the people in the YouTube, these people are scared, man. People are scared. They're scared.
I know, but at what point is there someone willing? Like, to me, the way to think about how late can he go is at what point are you willing to have a bag? Like, at what point are there people just scooping Travis Hunter? And to me, it's around the 12th round. Where like if you let me have him in the 12th, I'll have 80-90% of him in the 12th round. That's fine.
Yeah,
I can miss on it's 20 rounds. I can miss on a 12th round pick. I'll be okay.
That's the other thing. He probably won't even do the combine.
Yeah, he doesn't need to.
What does he stand to gain? Literally nothing. Literally, he could
Yeah.
only cost himself money.
I think it's going to go the other way, Davis. I think Finding Value Fantasy said he's about to mega steamy. I think it's more likely that I'm not able
To
to
get
get
him.
much Hunter as opposed to I'm able to get a bag of Hunter. And I think that's probably the way it should be. Like he's got a lot of upside if he's played at receiver, and these are tournaments that reward upside. So it should feel uncomfortable to be able to get a big position on Hunter. Which I think he's going to be so tricky. So tricky. And in retrospect, it's going to, whatever it is going to look so obvious. Like, oh my God. Remember when we took 5th round cornerback? Remember when we drafted a cornerback in the 5th round?
Remember when we drafted a cornerback in the 5th round? Or remember when these stupid idiots let me get Malik Neighbors part 2 in round 8? Like either way, it'll be so obvious.
It's so obvious in retrospect. Yeah.
There is going to be, in the big board, there is going to be zero clarity. And I'm guessing for
the big
Best
board drops in
Mania,
like 2 weeks, man. We have no clarity.
There also is unlikely to be clarity, I think, even for Best Ball Mania. I think he will be in the pool as a wide receiver, and I don't think, maybe even until the preseason starts, we probably won't know what position he's playing. I
think we'll know at the draft. I think we'll have much better indication of what. Now they're going to be coy and they're going to talk.
That's the thing. They're going to be coy
about playing with both, but like pretty quickly we're going to get rookie minicamp, and we're going to see where he's playing. You know, they always there's lining up everywhere and stuff, but like, we're DMing beat writers to be like, snap counts, man. Tell me like percentage of how much defense, how much offense. Like we would know a little bit more, potentially a lot more, depending on where he goes, than we do now.
I feel like we're not going to have a crystallized, we know for sure answer until the preseason.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. We won't know for sure until the preseason.
Like until
we
the
might not know
preseason.
For sure until week 1.
Imagine the sweat of he has 6 catches in the preseason and then plays 9 snaps on offense in week 1. Imagine the sweat. I don't know. I probably would lean more towards not being that in on him in the big board, but it'll be very price dependent. And rookie drafts, I feel like you almost just like I'm in one rookie draft where it's before the NFL draft. And I think just flat, I'm not spending a 1st round pick on him. Just flat, just can't do it.
I think in rookie drafts, he's potentially a huge landmine, because I think Dynasty is it's the rare form of fantasy where floor is actually huge, and spending a 1st round rookie pick on a guy who doesn't play offense in a non-IDP league is such a huge waste of value. Like, your 1st round rookie pick represents a big chunk of like the total value of your team. To set it on fire is such, and you don't need that much upside in Dynasty. You're trying to win a 12-team league. Like it's not, you just like, sometimes just like having good players at all your positions, you like smoke the competition. So you can actually kind of play more of a floor game. And the other thing with him is that I just made the thing about like, it's hard to say ceiling and everything. And so I don't know, like maybe he will be seen as like the 3rd best wide receiver in the league in 2 or 3 years. But generally, players aren't the 3rd best wide receiver. And like ceiling usually caps out lower than that for most players. And it's easy enough to go get, like, take that 1st round rookie pick and send it for one of his better outcomes. I think if you're gonna draft him, couldn't you get a guy who's gonna, deliver? Like, I'm trying to think what would it take to get Drake London with the pick you draft with Travis Hunter? You're gonna add to that a little, but how much? You add a 2nd to that maybe and go get Drake London? I would do that, and maybe that price isn't exactly right, but it would be the type of thing I'd be looking to do, is like, maybe go like, what is JSN going to cost? What do I got to add to my 1st to get JSN? Or, one of these guys, it's like, I'm kind of getting, I think, what the most likely outcome is if he
Anyway.
plays offense, and I'm not even sure he does.
Yeah.
I hope he plays offense, though, man.
I also hope he plays offense. I think that is the most fun. All right, let's move to another guy who's just as hard to figure out, Luther Burden. So if you're new to, like, if you're not a big Dynasty nerd and you don't follow these guys, you're probably like, what is that confusing about Luther Burden? Luther Burden, one of the more bizarre prospects I can remember, absolutely smashes with like pretty questionable quarterback play his sophomore season, then gets outproduced by Theo Wees, a 5-year senior transfer from Oklahoma. Got a bunch of NIL offers to leave Missouri, then didn't leave. I think I believe because he's from Missouri. The Dominator rating stuff is similar, 37% last year, 38% this year, but it's that he just didn't lead his team in production. Did score some rushing touchdowns, added some rushing equity and stuff like that, but I don't know. These guys who decline in production while in college, it's very tough. And I might let the NFL decide for this on me anyways, but you can't let the NFL decide for you in the big board. What are your thoughts on Burden?
Yeah, I mean, Burden is, so I'm looking at like ESPN's Scouts Inc., which, generally does a good job of giving us draft capital indications. And then let me look up Mock Draft Database, their consensus big board, where he's at on that. But in ESPN's, he's 49th overall. And I'd seen him initially as like kind of a clear-cut first round. Okay, so he's 15th on the consensus big board over at Mock Draft Database. To me, it's very important which one of those buckets he's in. Is this a second-round wide receiver or a first-round wide receiver? Because as a first-round wide receiver, I'm willing to overlook a lot more. And I would compare him maybe
Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr. Loads of red flags.
Loads of red flags, but lots of upside, athleticism. I like Thomas, I think, more than I'll end up liking.
I love Brian Thomas Jr. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. But I think Burden, okay, so as a first round, I would compare him more to like a Zay Flowers, I think, in terms of like style and sort of my willingness to overlook stuff. And I ultimately was like reasonably in on Zay. I was like, okay, fine. Like, I'll do the Zay thing. I'll take him in the 8th round or whatever he went in Best Ball Mania. I'm not fading this guy. I think is where I'd end up on him as a first round pick. If he's a second round pick in the NFL draft, his price will be lower, but I think I'm also more likely to fade him because he does seem kind of boom bust to me as a prospect. And if the NFL's not that in on him, then obviously I start to worry about the floor. I look at stuff. I look at the percentage of contested targets that you have on deep targets, like what percent of your deep targets were contested, and that's been a red flag that's like really popped up for guys like you think that it would, like a N'Keal Harry type, a Terrace Marshall type. Yeah. These guys. Now that pops up for Tetairoa McMillan, who had a large percentage of his deep targets contested. It's not always a huge issue because some of these guys, they have the deep targets contested, but then they're amazing in those contested catch situations. Tetairoa McMillan wasn't amazing there. And so that's part of where I talk about with him, like the separation and maybe him being a little bit dependent on what quarterback he lands in. But he's, that's kind of his game. Maybe he overcomes that. Luther Burden pops in this same red flag. He had a large percentage of his downfield 20+ yard targets were contested. Another thing I look at, and he only had a 38% contested catch rate on deep targets, which isn't terrible, but far from like really good. The other issue is I look at yards after catch and kind of where your yards after catch is occurring. And if you're getting like a big chunk of your yards after catch on behind the line of scrimmage targets or really short targets. And that's an issue for Luther Burden as well. So he pops for me as a potential guy who's not actually that great at getting open deep, despite being kind of a speedy guy, more of an undersized guy, and a guy who might be dependent on manufactured touches. This is kind of fantasy death.
He got a lot of manufactured touches in college.
Yeah. So 56% of his career yak came on behind the line of scrimmage touches. 56%.
They gave him these jet sweeps all the time.
22% of his total yards, which is pretty high, came behind the line of scrimmage, behind the line of scrimmage targets. So you have a guy who's like, my concern is
Brady Cook does stink.
Sure.
Yes. Yeah. Brady Cook, poor college football play. Yes.
And again, this is like my initial impressions. I'm getting a kind of an impression from the numbers, and then I'm going to like see from other people's opinions, other people's analysis, what the NFL thinks. And then like, I'm going to dig into these guys more too, and get a sense of like, if these numbers are telling the accurate story. By the way, Brian Thomas was a guy last year who showed up as a potential issue with separation, but like he was underthrown on a number of deep targets. And I ultimately ended up deciding, no, this guy can separate deep. I think we'll be fine. The athleticism obviously helped with that. He'll be fine separating deep. So this isn't the be all end all, but he pops in two different ways where you're like, is this guy actually going to get open in the NFL? Is he going to be able to earn targets, right? We always talk about like targets being earned.
Yeah. If you have to get plugged into the Rube Goldberg machine to get your targets, that is just a total death knell for you as like an elite dynasty asset. Because then you just become a luxury for your offense to drive out when they get bored. These are his top comps, with 32 as his draft pick, weight 205, 44.5. And it's kind of exactly what you think. Some really high end guys here: DeAndre Hopkins, Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, Robert Woods, and then some of the literal biggest busts in Dynasty: Jalen Reagor, Anthony Miller, Justin Hunter. Anytime I see Justin Hunter's name come up, I'm like, oh no, not Justin. Anything but
Reagor would be like an exact bear case of what I'm talking about. Like, he's so fast. We'll get the ball in this guy's hand. He's going to do damage after the catch. He can also, we can use him deep. Rager's like a guy who doesn't separate deep. Like, think about how many times you've seen like Reagor, the guy's like they're throwing deep along the sidelines and like he's bodied up. Like, that's the bear case. And right now the bear case is just like, it's amorphous. I don't know how real it is, but it's just like, it's definitely something I'm keeping in mind when I consider like who Luther Burden could end up being. And that's why I really want the draft capital to be there. Like, I don't want him to kind of be seen as like a boom bust guy by the NFL. I want the NFL to be sure that he's good.
Right. All right, let's talk about the two Ohio State guys, because they're just very hard to parse because they limited. Also, yes, this is true. The film grinders say basically he's just as good. It just, brutal range of outcomes for him. But
So just to finish, the yards, I just looked up who had the most yak coming on behind the line of scrimmage targets like in their entire career. It's Trey Tucker 1, Jalen Hurd 2, Luther Burden 3, Quez Watkins 4, Shi Smith 5. It's not like a great spot to be. Obviously, the draft capital and stuff and all that. Keon Coleman, this popped up as a red flag for Keon Coleman. Would maybe be like a kind of way to think. He's obviously a different body type, different skill set in a number of ways to Keon Coleman, but another thing, like, hey, this guy like doesn't really separate, and we have to use him on gadget stuff. Maybe he doesn't earn targets at a high rate. Would be Kayshon Boutte was another guy who struggled with this.
Turns out he can cook.
Yeah, kind of.
Turns out Kayshon Boutte's good. All right. So,
but be really athletic, Luther Burden, crush the combine, get yourself first round draft capital, and I'll start shutting up about this stuff.
I wonder if this is one of the new paradigms we're going to have to deal with in the NIL level, where it's hard to parse out running back skill because they play with one another. the two of the 6 best prospects might end up in the same backfield with Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. Yeah. Quinshon Judkins might not even declare, which Travion Henderson did last year. Travion Henderson had a very good season at Ohio State last year, averaged almost 6 yards per carry, scored 11 touchdowns, and then ended up coming back to school in a class where he probably would have been drafted pretty high because it was a weak draft class. What are you doing with these 2 Ohio State guys?
I like both of them. Now, here's my thing with the running back class. This type of running back class, I've heard in years past, gets, at least in terms of where the guys come in for me, talked up as like a bad running back class because there's one guy in it that we're like certain is really good. And then there's a bunch of good bets in it, but those bets are not certain. They're uncertain but high upside type of running back bets. And this year, people are excited about the running back class and saying what a great class it is. And I don't, when I look at Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, what I see is like really strong second-round rookie picks.
Just really good running back picks to take in Dynasty. Really good picks in the big board because Ohio State, productive running backs. I expect both of them to time well.
Yeah. I think Henderson's going to time really well.
Henderson might run a 4.3 something. In fact, probably will run a 4.
Fast.
Yeah.
He's got like McFadden.
Shot out of a cannon, people are saying.
Shot out of a cannon, but also can like bend at speed. Like the way, look at like this is a good example in this run. Like he bends runs at full speed in a way that reminds me of Darren McFadden. I loved
McFadden.
And I'm kind of a sucker for this.
Look at that jump cut. Crazy jump cut.
I'm always a bit of a sucker for this type of profile because I'm like, man, what if you just gave this guy like 1 million touches? He'd be so good. And the NFL usually doesn't. Usually
doesn't. But they're kind of like Chase Brown just got 1 million touches, so it can happen. This is the type of guy I'm gonna go ape for in the big board, where like, because I'm getting a sense that a lot of these veteran running backs are gonna get pushed way up, just because of the season we just saw, and I'm like, oh, I can just take Travion Henderson. I can just take Quinshon Judkins. I can just start taking all these guys. Like, oh, I can just take Ollie Gordon in the 15th round,
Yeah. And they're Ollie Gordon I'd have like a tier behind, but very much an awesome 15th round
Ollie Gordon is like, what do you even do with Ollie Gordon? I've never seen that dramatic of a decrease in running back production. I can't think of a single guy who's done that. So if you guys are unfamiliar with Ollie Gordon last season, like legit Heisman Trophy candidate, 285 rushes, 1,700 yards, 118 rushes, then 158 yards this season, 6 yards per carry down to 4.5 yards per carry. I mean, I don't know what happened, but I don't know. What does your stuff have on him? Because I am
3rd round rookie pick type.
Yeah, I'm just very flummoxed, and I liked Ollie Gordon, but I literally do not know. Did he get arrested? I didn't know. I did not know that happened, but it's just I assume he was probably hurt. I assume he just had that sort of decrease. Just like really can't happen without being injured.
Yeah, I have to look into him more, but initial take is like kind of 3rd round rookie pick, good later round dart throw type in best ball. Henderson and Judkins, I think, are pretty strong. I think I like the Penn State guys.
The Penn State guys are awesome. Are they both declaring?
I don't know.
I think
I specifically like
Singleton.
Sure.
Yes.
I like Singleton a lot.
Yes. Singleton is awesome. 6.4 yards per carry in a year his team made the college football semifinal, splitting the backfield with another NFL running back in Katron Allen, 838 rushing yards, contributed 37 receptions in the passing game at Penn State. I mean, I think he probably will be the guy I will be highest relative to consensus on. I think he is awesome.
I think he's awesome too. He's also like, he was a college committee back.
Yes.
And now you're projecting him to be an NFL workhorse, hopefully. But like, he is big. He's listed at 227. Now maybe he's 215. Okay.
God, he is big. Look at this guy.
Great. Look at his legs. He's got, this dude went to the same school as Saquon. You can tell. I think it could be a little Miles Sanders-y, where like they bring, like, Sanders was a college backup.
You're kidding, dude.
Oh no.
Tell me this is a joke. I'm Twitter searching it right now.
Oh, that's a killer to this class.
I do not see this. I think we got pranked.
Okay, good.
Nicholas.
I'm going to keep my hopes alive. I think Singleton.
He is still enrolled at Penn State.
Oh, it's true. We're getting confirmation 13 minutes ago. Shuby says.
I don't love it. All right, the class did legit just I just got less excited now.
Dude, that's a huge bummer for this class.
Yeah. I mean, look at this guy go.
He's awesome.
Yeah, shit. Well, that is a bummer. I guess we should do Amari and Hampton now, a guy who I'm actually a little bit less excited about.
Me too.
Just like, I guess there's just been a billion guys like this where they're really good college players. They get a bunch of touches. They're very productive, but I don't think is gonna be particularly explosive, which is a little bit of an issue. I don't know. What does your stuff have on Amari and Hampton?
Amari and Hampton, kind of a second round rookie pick type as well.
I think you're going to have to pay first round price for him.
Exactly. So the reason I love Singleton, and there's other guys, Scatabo, who I'm hoping we'll talk about.
Oh yeah,
he's really interesting. Caleb Johnson, Judkins, and Henderson. These and then Singleton were all kind of in a tier for me. And what I liked is that it looks to me like Hampton is going to be kind of seen as the clear number 2 in the class.
For sure.
Where I'm like, sure, he probably is. He's going to be my RB2, I think. But from a tiering perspective, he's like very similar.
I mean, look how slow this dude is. He just got caught on this run against.
Can you rewind that? Because that is pretty wild, actually.
This is North Carolina Central, which is, I'm assuming it's got to be like super
burst through the hole, boom,
and then
up to speed, and then that's it.
Like, which has that has value. Like, I'm not saying this dude is bad, but I don't know if this is like, I want to spend a 1.6 on him. I'd probably rather just gamble that Luther Burden just gets a bunch of yak,
Yeah.
James Conner. Okay, that is kind of Connery. And don't, guys, like, he handled a bazillion touches, 253, 281 rushes, over 2 consecutive touches over two seasons over 300 touches. So, like,
here's
pretty
the other
valuable.
If you told me that Hampton was seen as kind of the consensus running back 5 in the class, but was still going to go probably late second round, and was going to be like a 9th round pick or 10th round, 11th round pick, somewhere in there in the big board, I would love him. I would be all about Amari and Hampton because he's a downhill guy. I think he'll probably run in the 4.5. It's like he doesn't have the final gear, but he's got really good burst, so he gets up to speed quickly.
He's gonna be 3-cone, good 3-cone, poor 40 probably.
I think like a 4.59. Maybe he's like, I think he'll be sub 4.6, but he's not gonna be sub 4.5. Like, kind of that would be my guess.
Chris just mentioned this. So I think this is a big wrinkle that we probably should have mentioned with all these running back prospects is one of them is going to end up with the Vikings. Like their backfield is Cam Akers, Aaron Jones, who cannot stay on the field with this continued quad and hamstring thing. And that guy who ends up as a starting running back for the Vikings, like we could end up in a spot where Amari and Hampton or Caleb Johnson or whoever is like a 3rd round pick in BBM, basically.
He also he strikes me as a bad fade in a way where, like, okay, the best fades are the guys who don't do what the NFL wants them to do. You know, like the worst fades are the guys who like don't do like what we think running backs should do, or like have a lot of breakaway yards, be like really good receivers. And
another run where he gets caught playing against James Madison's
not
backups.
great. But I mean, if you load him up with touches, is he gonna consistently churn out yards? Like, yeah, he is.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
And the NFL loves that. So that's not he's a tricky one where I doubt he's like a screaming target for me. It would take, honestly, for him to be a target, he'd have to like test not super great, and people would have to kind of cool off, and he falls to the 2nd round. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's better than the running backs
and be a round 2 pick.
Chart. Be a round 2 pick. Yeah. Then I would love him. But
you know what? I don't know if it's because of the number, but yeah, I absolutely see this. Absolutely see some David Montgomery here.
Let me pull up his comps in my stuff and see.
Yeah, I could definitely see David Montgomery. Let's see if I give him. Let's do draft pick of 45, and I'll do a weight of 215. I bet James Conner will pop up on here. Yeah, he does look a lot like Conner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cam Akers pops up as his top comp for me.
How funny, how top comp up for RotoViz is Dalvin Cook.
And Cam Akers is not far down the list.
Daryl Henderson. I could definitely see. Brees is a good one.
He doesn't have the explosion of Brees. That's the issue.
Desmond Reed. Desmond Reed weighs about 182 pounds soaking wet, but he's pretty interesting.
I saw you tweeting about Caleb Johnson. You're pretty in on him?
Oh, Caleb Johnson is so this is actually how we're going to win the big board. We are not going to care that he doesn't look that like super exciting, and that, you know what, this is just where we get to run back Braylon Allen again, I think.
But Braylon Allen is a starting running back, I think.
Exactly. Yeah, Braylon Allen. He's 225. He's a big dude. But when they chose to give him the ball in the passing game, he did well. Now he's the same deal where he does get away on this one, but he's not going to be super fast. I don't think he's going to run a 4.42 or whatever.
His comps for me are a little bit, but what if it works for us? Kendre Miller, Deontay Foreman, Darius Geis, Royce Freeman, but just a little bit above Royce, Kenneth Walker would be the other guy. Now, I don't think Walker's, faster at top speed, but
I think this is where I'm at. I think Caleb Johnson is my RB2. I think he looks pretty quick. Like, to me, just like watch this and tell me if you think he looks faster than Amari and Hampton, because he looks faster.
No, I think Hampton has a better second gear. I think Hampton, you see like explode through the hole in a way where he just like he kind of glides here.
Caleb Johnson is 10 pounds bigger.
Yeah,
he's.
I think Hampton has that, like, I mean, he did turn it on there, but not as much as Hampton, to my eyes.
I don't know, man. 225.
He's probably like, he might be slightly faster. Maybe not. I don't know.
Soft hands. Like also the hard thing is this dude played at Iowa. Like, he played like Cro-Magnon football. So it's just kind of hard.
I think he runs. I would not be surprised if he's in the mid 4.6s.
Oh God. Okay, if he runs a 4.6, he will not be my running back too.
But I think he's also the type of guy who could be totally fine with 4.6 speed because he's big. If he runs a 4.6, he just shouldn't run. Probably. Right. He should just skip it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is going to be very similar to what I said about Braylon at the time. It's just going to be a guy coaches are going to love. I feel the same way about Caleb Johnson. Brian Robinson, very, very Brian Robinson.
Very Brian Robinson, yeah.
Blue blood school, big guy, guy. It's just how it works, man.
Brian Robinson's a good comp.
Yeah.
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 I mean, I think, yeah, like Deontay Foreman-y, but, doesn't tear his Achilles.
Deontay Foreman, but never tore his Achilles.
Never tore his Achilles and gets a start right away.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, the top speed is not good, man.
No, it's not. He's not pulling away on these.
But that's where I think, like, what Caleb Johnson, like, if you can get this guy for a second round rookie pick, immediate production, like you're like, I turned the second round rookie pick into an every week starter for me. Like, that's so massive. But at the same time, if he were to cost a mid first,
all right, the people want the Cam Scatterbo.
Oh, I love Cam Scatterbo.
So here's the issue with Scatterbo, and I don't even mean this as a negative issue. You're just going to have to decide what you are willing to do with this. But Cam Scatterbo is probably going to be the most overdrafted player in the big board and one of the most underdrafted players in BBM. People are going to be so excited about Scatterbo in the big board. They just saw him play. He made the great plays against Texas.
This dude is like, it's so not real for the NFL. Like
this dude is going to run a 4.68 at 238 pounds, 235 pounds. I mean, dude, he just. I want to believe, because I love guys like Cam Scatterbo. Like, Cam Scatterbo is plus 350 to be on my podcast. But
I don't know, man. I think it would be a pull for you to get Cam Scatterbo on the podcast. Like, I think
the college football playoff game made him way too famous. He's probably been like on the Barstool podcast or something.
So let's see. Cam Scatterbo is running back 9 on ESPN's board, overall rank of 97, and the consensus mock draft database board, he's an 82. So we're talking about like a day 2 pick, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a third round pick. But I agree with your sort of setup that he'll be overdrafted and then underdrafted. Because a third round pick has a really low floor.
Third round running backs don't play all the time. We always get excited about third round picks. The thing you got to remember about the third round is that these dudes are the 90th best college players,
Right. It's also Scatterbo, as was pointed out by Shooty.
Oh, it's Scatterbo.
He says the red flag. I don't think that's a red flag. That gives me I like that better.
Yes. Great bowl game. Cool last name. Just a lock to be overdrafted in the big board. It does not get more of a now.
I think he could be kind of Kyrie. That's the comp when I look at him, I'm like,
now when you get to your rookie drafts and people are a little bit more clear-headed and they're thinking with their brains, this is the type of guy, dude. This is what third round rookie picks were made for in your dynasty
100%.
drafts. You want to come away clicking this guy at the 3.8 10 times out of 10.
He won't be there though in this class. I don't think he'll be there.
And there's a lot of
the Penn State backs, bro. He might be the 108.
God, Singleton coming back is just like a death knell. That really sucks.
I hate it.
I was really, really excited about him. If you're watching this on later, go back and watch the 2 minutes where we were talking about Singleton, and then watch Scatterbo and be like, these guys play the same position. Well,
he's like a thick Eckler.
Thick Eckler, I could maybe do a 9th round big board pick, actually. Thick Eckler.
Yeah, I think I'd take 9th round. We kind of did this year.
Yeah. DJ Giddens is a pretty good one. Oh, here's Here's one of my pet guys.
He does
And
need to drop weight. Ball's life says he needs to drop weight, but
yeah, I don't know how much
1.57 yards per route run. One of the best in the class.
I don't know how much Devin Neal. Well, remember what points per route or yards per route run got us with Dylan Lauby. It got us 1 carry, 1 fumble.
It helps to have draft cap.
No one tell Dylan I was talking about him. Okay.
Thickler, Rusty Shackelford. I tried to. I'm sick, so my brain's not like 100% capacity right now. But yeah, Thickler. I was trying to do the mashup in my head, didn't get there.
If I could get one guy to a passable weight in this class, it would definitely be Devin Neal. I'm like very convinced Devin Neal is the secret superstar of this running back class. What do you have on Devin Neal?
I haven't really looked into him that much, but he pops up. Good breakaway runner. Yards per route run in the kind of acceptable range with a lot of routes run, which can be, that's where Breece Hall was. And that can, if a team were to use him as a receiver, he looks like he would be functional to potentially pretty good. Looks like he graded overall pretty well. Wait, Devin Neal, how much do you think he weighs?
197.
Okay.
That might even be.
That might even listed higher than that.
That might. Yeah, I mean, he might be listed, but just look how little this dude is.
Yeah, he's listed at 215.
That is okay. He's just I mean, I'd love for that to be true, but there's just no way.
All right. Well, I had him as 250, so I'll put him in 197 and see how that changed. He's still a 3rd round rookie pick.
God, look how freaking shifty this guy is, man. He's so like just one of those guys you just watch. He's so good. He really just might not be. He's 215 the same way that Tutu Atwell is 170. He just is splitting.
He looks a little Bucky. I mean, a little Bucky-ish.
Oh, that's a really good comp. That is a really, really good comp. Yeah.
That's who he reminds me of.
Very, very Bucky Irving style, where I don't think he's going to test that well either. Like he'll be a bad RAS guy. But like, can't you just see Devin Neal, Kansas City Chief, or Devin Neal as Ty Johnson on the Buffalo Bills?
Well, you had me. I was a little more excited with him as the Chiefs starting running back. Ty Johnson is like a 7th year, 8th year player.
Well, no, but like imagine Ty Johnson, but this guy instead getting those snaps.
I mean, he could be kind of James Cook-esque.
Could be, yeah. Why could, yeah, he could be, and
4.
James Cook gained weight in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
They were just talking about it on the broadcast. He gained a bunch of weight. I just like these are the Devin Neal. Devin Neal is a good receiver. Devin Neal, 76 catches, 700 yards in 3 seasons. Handled. Yeah, he's a really good. This will be when you go to a rookie draft with me and you see Davis Mattek has locked in, has queued their draft in the 3rd round of their rookie draft. Just know you're not getting Devin Neal probably if I've already set my.
You're one pick behind Davis and he's pre-draft selection made. You're not getting Devin Neal.
You're not getting Devin Neal. All right, who do you?
He seems like a great double-digit round big board pick.
Super good because also like think about the types of teams that value the skill set. They're all the teams you'd want him on.
Also looks like he so the thing with undersized backs, you don't want him to be like kind of scat back type guys. Like
no, he's running up the middle.
Look at that run, running right up the middle and with explosiveness, like hitting holes hard.
Did not get caught by the defender on that play before the whoop ad starts. You guys are getting a deep insight into what my targeted ads are. It's all AG1 and whoops. They know. They almost get me there. Rashad White, but on the Chiefs. All right, people really want Harold Fannin. It just feels kind of unknowable on him because I do not know what the NFL is going to do with this guy. Harold Fannin is like an answer to the question of what would have happened if Kyle Pitts played in the MAC.
I've been a little bit of a Debbie Downer for this podcast, I know. And I hope that I'm wrong in a number of ways on these guys, and that they all crush the combine, draft capital comes in, and I'm starting to rethink some of these red flags and start to think maybe they don't matter so much. Maybe I'm seeing more of the upside case. I love Harold Fannin. I'm not going to be a Debbie Downer on Harold Fannin. I think Harold Fannin is one of the most fun players in this draft class. And there's going to be Debbie Downers on Harold Fannin because
there is going to be Debbie Downers. There's already someone typing a comment right now. Dude, he didn't play against anybody. Dude, he only played against community colleges.
He's, the thing about Fannin is that he's underdrafted or undersized and hopefully not underdrafted. I think he'll probably be a day 2 pick though. Maybe not a second round pick, but a third round pick, a tight end. I'm good with that. Small school guy, but literally an entire offense ran through this guy. Like pull up his box score scout stuff because it's nuts. It's
final
absolutely
season.
Nuts.
Final season at Bowling Green State University. 100 receptions, 1,337 yards, 9 touchdowns, 53% dominator rating. Not a typo, not a mistake. 53% dominator rating.
When you see a 53% dominator rating, Davis and I can tell you, it's always driven by touchdowns. It's always driven by touchdowns. You can't do it. You can't get 50% of the team's yards. What percent of yards did he have though, Davis?
He had 41%.
No, that's
50%.
He had 50%. That's why I said that. He had 50% of the team's yards. That's insane. That's insane.
God, man.
He was half of a team. He was half of a passing.
He was half of a team
at tight end. He's undersized, and you do run the risk of him being kind of a gadgety type dude. But the thing that I am really impressed by is that he's a good run blocker. He's not actually just a receiver. He was a good run blocker in college. Let me pull up his PFF grades for the run blocking. Let's see. Harold Fannin.
I'm sure they're probably fine because he would have been listed at. It's really. So God, just watch this guy.
He had a 75 run blocking grade this past year in a season where he's going absolutely nuclear as a receiver. He's one of the that's a really good mark. He's a really good run blocking tight end. Now, what about a pass blocker? I don't care. I don't want this guy pass blocking.
No, you don't want this guy pass blocking ever.
Yeah. So give me the reason I care about run blocking is I want him out there for play action stuff. I want him out there for 2 tight end sets around the goal line, where they feel confident that he's not going to miss an assignment if they do run the ball, but then they can actually pass off of that. In all of college football, let me put a minimum in here. Minimum block snap, 20%. PFF. Harold Fannin, in all of college football in 2024, all of FBS in 2024, had the 14th highest run blocking grade among tight ends. I don't think this guy is just a glorified receiver. Like maybe now I'm open to learning more about, kind of the way it going to translate, because it's the big red flag is the level of competition. Can he
11 for 137 and 1 against Penn State, 8 for 145 and 1 against Texas A&M. So those are, 2 real schools. Those are basically the only 2 real schools that he ever played.
But he did well.
It's like sometimes this can be the Andy Isabella thing, right? Remember Andy Isabella?
It can be for sure.
Smashed against Georgia. But
yeah,
just for what I expect Harold Fannin to cost, you just could simply never get me to not buy, because the upside of what if this guy just like randomly fell through the cracks and ended up at Bowling Green State University.
I'm gonna, and especially the tight end, because he's a sort of a tweener profile. Consigliere asked me to check the PFF. So what are the two? So Penn State, he had a 72.8 run blocking grade against Penn State. Texas A&M, he was at 50.5. So he did not do well against Texas A&M in run blocking, but he did do well against Penn State.
Historical anomalies is bringing up Micah Bernard. Someone had to do it.
Yeah, I know. Pass blocking, he had a 35.9 pass blocking grade this past year. Just horrendous. But I don't care.
You don't want him pass blocking.
Yeah, I really don't care. But by the way, that's only on 6 snaps. He had 263 run blocking snaps this year, which is also like a lot of snaps. Let me see where that ranks.
Was a stud defensive back in high school.
Interesting.
Okay. Good to know.
So run blocking snaps, not like he's like outside the top 50 in run blocking snaps, I think, but still that's a solid number. Yeah. He was 71 in run blocking snaps. So decent sample.
Yes, obviously this is the concern, is that he could be Ladarius Green, he could be Jason Morrow, he could be any of these guys. But what if he could
also be Jordan Reed.
Jordan Reed is a great. They built the passing offense out of him. Yeah, I think
he might legitimately be like a Jordan Reed type. Like man, and I don't think he's going to cost a ton. And people, comments in the chat and stuff of like a 3rd round pick from Bowling Green at tight end. Like, no thanks. Like, I get that. But I think that will be baked into the price to an extent, and we can get him in maybe the 18th, 19th, 20th of the big board.
Let me tell you, he is going to be a 12th round pick in BBM if he ends up being a 2nd or 3rd round pick. So he's going to be, people in BBM are going to love him. Now, this is the guy.
Oh, moves like Likely. Likely's a good comp. Likely's a really good comp.
Likely Coastal Carolina, insanely good comp. Yes, this is a very good comp. Yeah. This is the guy you have to weigh him against. You have to weigh him against Colston Loveland, who is going to be significantly more expensive, might even go ahead of Tyler Warren in the NFL draft. What do you have on Colston Loveland?
I like Loveland, and I think he should be right there with Tyler Warren. He's an early declare.
I literally can't tell if it's just because these clips are in HD and the other ones were not, but he just looks better to me. But this video from Inside the Edge, if you guys want to check them out on YouTube, their videos are in HD. Their prospect videos. I don't know if that does anything for you, but
that sounds great. I think
this is a big issue. Colston Loveland is a Dalton Kincaid ass name.
It is.
Yeah,
it is
very Dalton Kincaid ass name.
If I was just evaluating these two guys, Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, I think I'd have Loveland slightly behind Tyler Warren. So I would, I'd have Warren as the tight end 1 in the class. But it's a kind of it's kind of the Hampton conversation with like Hampton versus the other running backs that I like behind Jeanty, where like Jeanty's going to have, to me, he should have a huge gap down to the next running back, and Hampton's going to help fill that gap. And Warren is going to be, I think elevated above Loveland, at least where the conversation is right now. If there's any kind of discount on Loveland relative to Warren, I would love to scoop that discount. I think he's also just to me, there's similarly strong tight end prospects. And that take, I think, is backed up by the NFL, who has these guys pretty close in terms of draft capital.
Loveland could like legit go ahead. It's so funny that they also both are these classic Big Ten blue blood schools that like never throw the ball. Like Loveland, 42% dominator rating on 56 receptions. That is classic, hard to evaluate stuff. Like 42% dominator rating, great. 56 receptions as 42% of a passing offense turns out not great, because that just compresses the pie down. And also he had this like brutal quarterback play. I mean, you could see it you could see it even in these highlight clips. It's like, this is not really what you want your college quarterback.
Who do you think tests better?
Loveland just like looks way more athletic to me, just from watching.
And that's why I think scooping a discount on Loveland could be a really big key to these drafts, like to the big board drafts where, it's going to get locked in. Like if he's the more athletic guy and he has similar draft capital and he has a better
he
landing
looks
spot.
really tall. He looks like really, really tall, which is like
He's listed at 6'5". It's actually listed shorter than Warren.
Does he not just look like
he looks
crazy
tall
to you?
He
Maybe
looks
it's just
like a
because
receiver.
Maybe it's just because he's skinny.
Yeah. I think Loveland, and again, Loveland is a guy who comes out as kind of a late first, early second round rookie pick type.
Now, if that is his cost, again, like if you can take him at the end of the first round with the 201 or whatever, I mean I think that is just like picking a nickel up on the street. You just like never lose that transaction value wise.
That would be awesome. I'd be so psyched about that. Yeah, Loveland. If I don't know, where do you think he opens the big board up?
He went to Michigan, like did not post eye-popping numbers, like not sexy. There's just like Warren had like Warren runs the Wildcat and played in the college football playoff, and just like kind of the vibes are high on him. I bet he opens the big board quite late, but round 11, round 12, round 13. Yeah, I think
a pretty big bag there.
I think after the Ingram range for sure. That is my read right now.
I think it's easy to see how he flips Warren by BBM. He gets a slightly better landing spot. He's more athletic. I mean, he could flip him before the draft if he's a lot more athletic, and I think that's live. He's not. Both of these guys are seen as locks for the first round. Maybe not locks, but very strong for the first round. Warren is 17th on the consensus big board at mock draft database. Loveland is 20. Like, if you're going to give me any kind of discount on that, and I'm getting the guy who's an early declare, I'm getting a guy who is productive, really productive, true breakout season as a 3-year, in his third season, where the other guy didn't break out until his fourth season. The guy's probably more athletic, and I'm looking at pretty similar draft capital. And honestly, in a part of the draft where you fall another 3, 4, 5 picks, all of a sudden you're talking about good quarterback play instead of crappy quarterback play. So it could just be like, consensus that Loveland goes ahead of Warren. There's many universes where it's consensus where Loveland goes ahead of Warren because of landing spot, similar draft capital, athleticism. Obviously, Warren, I don't want to be like fading, but it's more that, like, again, I've been a little bit of a Debbie Downer on the pod. Loveland and Fannin, and in different tiers, but Loveland and Fannin are both guys who I'm actually pretty excited to draft.
I'm pretty excited about big board dynasty stuff for both of them as well. I think I'm going to fight, especially with Singleton going back, because I was going to be big on I would have had Singleton, I think, probably as a first round rookie pick, and obviously he's off the board.
Yeah.
Now, here is a dude who I'll there's just like no way I think I'm going to get to the market on Emeka Egbuka. Just like such a weird. What do you even do with a guy who just like? What do you do with the guy who is the 5th starter on the Monstars? Like literally, what do you do with that guy?
You take him in the second round. His name's John Mechie.
God. Never had over. I guess the sophomore season was very, very good. 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns, 27% dominator rating. Obviously, like, always was insanely efficient. But dude, his teammates, man. I mean, just the list of guys that he played with were so limiting in terms of what his ceiling could be. So that sophomore season where he smashed at Ohio State, these were his teammates. CJ Stroud was his quarterback. Marvin Harrison Jr., Cade Stover, JSN was on that team. Travion Henderson was on that team. I guess actually that season's more impressive. Is that season more impressive now that we think Marvin Harrison Jr. stinks?
I don't think he stinks. I mean, I'm still kind of in on Harrison, but Yeah. By the way, Bindles, I am making it. I was just making a joke with the Mechie, but I do. I do worry a little bit about the profile of kind of the leftover guy, because Terrace Marshall was kind of the leftover guy too.
There's been many guys like this, and not even half of them have been hits.
Yeah, I think
there's also just the Ohio State tax. People in football, and I guess just because they're so popular, everyone is an Ohio State fan. Like people, like Ian Hartitz is just like randomly like a huge Ohio State homer. You just don't think about stuff like that, but that creeps into the market.
I think I'll actually be in on Ibuka as like a competent professional wide receiver type.
It's exactly what he is. He is. I worst case scenario for him, the guy is like Robert Woods style player.
Yeah, like I think when you look at him versus Burden, like ultimately aren't you kind of hoping for like a similar type of role?
For sure.
And Burden scares the hell out of me in some of this, some of the red flag stuff. And Ibuka is gonna just like, I think, fit into an offense.
He's just like a day one, week one slot wide receiver starter.
Yeah. So I actually, allow me my Mets jokes, but I think I'm probably going to be reasonably high on Ibuka. And one of the other things I talked about, the stuff with Burden in terms of like yards after catch and where it's coming from. Ibuka had 34% of his yards after catch on 10 plus yards targets, which about even.
Ibuka wouldn't. Why would they ever give him a screen?
How, like well, he did have 35% of his coming on behind the line of scrimmage targets. So we've seen some like kind of
that's really
jet
funny.
sweep stuff. Yeah. So he was used some there, but he was used on intermediate targets at a high rate, 40% of his career yards on targets 10 to 19 yards downfield. I mean, I still need to dig in on him more, but like from initial run, it would be like maybe like a little kind of similar like Pearsall last year, where like you're like, I think this guy gets open in the intermediate area, and teams like that, man. Teams really like that. So
NFL teams are going to love him.
Yeah, I think I'm probably overweight Ibuka. Ultimately, it depends on price. Like I do not want to have to pay up a lot, but if you're telling me like I can get him in the early double-digit rounds or late single-digit rounds, depending on landing spot and draft capital, I'm not going to fight that at all.
Yeah. I guess here's maybe a better question. You have like the 108 and Ibuka's the top guy on your board. Are you just like windmilling that pick? Because the 1-8 means you probably had a good team the year before. Like assume it's your pick. You had a good pick the year before. Your team's pretty good. Are you taking Ibuka like, oh, this is just a win? Or are you like, I'm going to trade this for 27-year-old wide receiver X, who's like not going to last as long, but is just like clearly going to score more points the next year than Ibuka? Like, which basket do you place him in?
How active is your league, and how active are you? Because if you're active, I think you take Ibuka, because I think he strikes me as a guy who could ultimately go first round in a pretty. I don't think this is a good draft class like in real life, and it's not a deep wide receiver class. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was a late first round pick in the NFL and maybe lands in a good spot. And I think you could also be talking about a guy who could hit the ground running, even if he's ultimately like seen as a bust. So we could be talking about a Jahan Dotson type of guy, where it's like, man, this is kind of a weak first round pick, if in a real life perspective, but like he produces, he's not super efficient, but he produces right away. And if you're the type of person who's like, okay, I was never that excited about this guy. I got him at the 108, and now people are like pretty amped. I'm going to start packaging him up, try to get off him, try to lock in a profit on, a player who's not the highest ceiling type of guy. Let me just go ahead and lock that in. then he could be like awesome. Like he could be like a really awesome profit generator in Dynasty. I think if I feel lucky to get off of him in the rookie draft, like rookie draft's the only time people trade, and I'm only half paying attention to the league.
Right.
I think I would trade the pick.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That is a classic. That's fair. I don't know, for whatever reason, I'm just not that excited about him. The comps and the RotoViz stuff are kind of fine. Some hits in there. Rashee Rice,
Sterling
Debo,
Shepard.
Sterling Shepard. Mingo.
That would be it. I think he's a Sterling Shepard-y type of guy.
Yeah. I think that is right about right. Do you have any other pet project guys you want to talk about?
Let me see. If you've got anybody,
I've got one. Just like a very weird prospect. Savion Williams played.
Yeah, what's his deal? Because ESPN loves him and Mock Draft Database does not.
Well, he played wide receiver and running back at TCU because they ran out of running backs. He's projected to be like one of these guys who kills the combine, like have like a crazy combine. But he had 51 rushes his final season. He's a fifth-year guy. He never topped 20% dominator rating. But this might be just one of these guys who never really found the right usage for his skill set until the end. And I believe he changed coaching staffs too. I believe the coaching staff the final 2 years at TCU was different. There we go. If Cordell Patterson and Laviska Shenault had a baby, his name would be Savion. Well, you found a guy like I just know he will be a guy that I like.
So he's interesting. I'm definitely
your stuff is gonna hate him.
It doesn't like him at all.
Yeah.
It doesn't like him.
Just watch the dude go. He's gonna run. He's gonna run a 4.36. He weighs like 225. He just is like.
It doesn't hate him, to be fair. He's a third-round rookie pick in my stuff.
Yeah, that's. I mean, he looks like that to me, and is like this guy ends up in. If he's a Jaguar, shoot it on fire. You don't want him. If he's a Bill or a Chief or a Bengal or a 49er or a Ram or something.
He looks like a little like Denard Robinson though. To use the Jaguar
with the dreads.
Just throwing that pass, it looked a little.
He's awesome. I think this is the exact type of guy. And these are the type of guys, by the way, that you can pick up for free in the big board. Remember, Tyrone Tracy literally wasn't even in the big board. This is a 20th round pick in the big board. That your 20th round pick, I hate to tell you guys this, is probably going to be a 0 anyways, unless it's Zach Ertz. I try to tell you. And you take this guy in the 20th round. He could be an 11th round pick in BBM with the right. If what happened to Tyrone Tracy happened to him, he could shoot way up in the.
If he's just a running back, he looks good as a running.
I believe my guess is he probably is going to get drafted as a running back. Okay. That is my guess right now, because once TCU realized he was good at running back, they just started to use him there more. They had another good running back. People are asking about this fella, Jack Beck. So he was awesome his final season. He's kind of your classic. You don't love to see 13%, 9%, 3% dominator rating followed by the final year 32% on a shitty Big 12 team. He is also, if I remember from watching their games, he is kind of clunky. Just not. He's
also like nowhere to be found on these. Okay, so he's 139 on Mock Draft Database.
He tore his ACL in his final game.
Oof. Okay.
So he's dynasty rookie drafts only. You're not gonna want him in the big board. Demetric Felton. Okay, but imagine if Demetric Felton was 230 pounds. Would you that is Savion Williams, Demetric Felton, but 230 pounds instead of being a 190 pound tweener?
3 names I want to throw out.
Let's go.
They're all kind of okay. So we're into guys who can't separate downfield at all with Tet McMillan.
Yeah.
What about Trey Harris, who can't separate at all? But
Fifth
he's
year
actually
guy,
huge.
fifth-year guy, played in that, super friendly air raid style, the Lane Kiffin offense, we can talk about
Pull him up
Nick.
because he's fun. Like his contested catch rate stuff is actually really fun.
You want to talk about Nick Nash?
Oh no, I meant Harris.
Oh, okay. We will do Nick Nash in a second. We can pull up Trey Harris. Here are the Trey Harris stats. I guess he did break out technically at Louisiana Tech and then transferred. Hard to
and then
go
was
from
productive.
Louisiana Tech to the NFL.
You just told me about how COVID screwed everything up. This looks like a COVID profile to me.
16.2 yards per reception, also sick. I mean, this could be a pretty good candidate for a guy who goes higher in the NFL draft than you would think. I don't know. Isn't he just arbitrage Tet McMillan?
He's arbitrage Tet McMillan. Yeah.
I think your point is right. Yeah, he's arbitrage Tet McMillan.
And by the way, he's listed 89th on ESPN and he's listed 43rd on Mock Draft Database. So he's seen as like a very much a potential day 2 guy.
That spin move was sick.
He's like, look, like that would be a good example of like sometimes he looks like his feet are kind of in cement.
Yeah.
He's not quick-footed. And I think he's going to have to win contested catches. And so it's a boom bust profile for sure. But
this I cannot get on board with. This idea that Jackson Dart is going to be a late round 1 quarterback pick. That's what people are saying. I just cannot get there on Jackson Dart.
I think the quarterback class is bad enough that I'll just accept it. Whatever.
Well, maybe he'll go there.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man.
Yeah. Okay. So he's kind of interesting, especially if people are going to be like, "Oh, this dude sucks," but he has actually decent draft capital.
You're gonna be able to get this guy the day the big board opens, round 17.
Great. I'm into that. Because he could be like a Chase Claypool type, where like he could bust, but he gets second round draft capital. He gets a chance.
Bust, but score 9 touchdowns as a rookie.
Yeah, I love busts who score 9 touchdowns. They're my favorite types of bust. All right, let's do Jaden Higgins.
Oh,
another guy.
No, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel are awesome.
Jaden Higgins, he looks like we'll pull him up on YouTube because stylistically he reminds me of somebody. I want to see if it clicks for you as we're watching him. I'll pull it Stylistically, is this
nice little jump ball touchdown?
Let's get one more. Let's get a route here.
I've watched a ton of him and Noel play.
Kind of out of the slot there, you might say. Over the middle catch.
Jordan Matthews.
Yeah.
Jordan.
Yep. Isn't it Jordan Matthews?
Wow. Look at our synergy there. Yeah, it's very Jordan Matthews-y.
But Jordan Matthews was very productive early in his career.
Jordan Matthews, yeah, people have totally whitewashed that. But yes, he was very and would have continued to be productive, but he hurt his knee.
Yeah.
Jaden Higgins. In.
Yeah.
In on him, in on Jalen Noel, in on both of them. They were the Iowa State came down to the final week, was almost able to win the Big 12, would have been in the college football playoffs with a pretty crappy sophomore quarterback. And it was all these two. It was all Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. I think they had over 70% combined of their passing offense.
Where do you think Noel gets drafted? Because he's listed 128 on ESPN, and where's he on mock draft database? 168. So I just changed him to a 3rd round pick. He came out as a 3rd round rookie pick. So he's definitely someone worth keeping an eye on. I think I haven't really looked into him that much, but my stuff would be like, yeah, definitely a guy worth keeping an eye on. But the draft capital was a big red flag.
I think Jalen Noel, the NFL might like him a little bit more. He's kind of got the more translatable NFL skill set and role where he can do this stuff down. I mean, that was a crazy catch, but he's just your more prototypical, like just run these routes all day. Run these short crossers. Well, I mean, they went to the same school, Xavier Hutchinson, and these Iowa State wide receivers are so hard to deal with. I don't know what this is, but yeah, people are saying Trey Harris is a Mercer Furman Georgia State merchant. Well, Nick Nash might be.
He very well could be. I think it's the type of class where I think the guys who are being held up as the second tier have warts that people aren't like talking about.
Yeah.
And then I think the guys behind that also have warts that people are talking about. And just if they both have warts, give me the ones that people are talking about.
Or just give me the cheaper warts.
Give me the cheaper warts. Yeah, well, that's really what it is. Give me the cheaper warts. Cheaper warts are great.
So. I like both the Iowa State guys, Jalen
Nice.
Noel and Jaden Higgins. I think they're both going to be a little undervalued. And then who was the third guy you wanted to mention?
Third guy is Alec Io Manor.
Well, this guy is like, what do you even do with this guy? Because he has so much bad baggage attached to him from being a contested catch wide receiver at Stanford.
Yeah.
Contested catch wide receiver at Stanford. Basically, I will, I'll never love again a guy like this.
Yeah. I mean, that's not great, but he had a knee injury and I think played with a brace for a bit.
I think he's probably pretty good, but I'm worried the NFL will not agree.
So he tore his ACL and MCL in I'm not sure what season it was. It was in their opening win over Colgate per this article.
Yeah, Matthew Golden is catching a lot of steam because he really produced after Isaiah Bond basically started stinking. Could see him being a super late riser. I mean, he's another weird guy where he didn't even start the season starting for Texas. He transferred from Houston and then was a reserve player for Texas, which is just a bit weird. They're about to show this catch right now. This catch over Travis Hunter. Look at him. He smoked Hunter right there.
Yeah. So he I think it was his freshman season. He had a knee injury. God, he looked really slow there. What if he wasn't? What if he was producing while like still recovering from a knee injury and now he's healthy? This kind of.
I mean, honestly, Pat, for me, it's just what if he didn't go to Stanford? What if he generated a 45% dominator rating and a 35% dominator rating at literally anywhere else? I have so much psychic damage from JJ Arcega-Whiteside. Yeah. Right. Well, I actually don't think you want to see his 40 time. His 40 time, I think, is not going to help you because it's going to be like 4.62.
If it's 4.62, then I think me and the NFL are going to go, okay, never mind. But I think there's going to be some intrigue until then.
Could we convert him to tight end?
I don't think he's not big enough.
No, he's probably faster than 4.62. That was a nice little.
He's 53rd on the mock draft database board. And let's see, I'll just keep updating. He's 82nd on ESPN. This
is a really good play right here.
Rewind, I missed it.
He just gets up. So he breaks the tackle, and then that little burst right there, and then now he's really slow.
He's got no top speed, it looks like, though. Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe not.
Not everyone has to have top speed. But you cannot ignore a career 47% dominator rating, even at Stanford.
No, he's someone who definitely pops as like, again, worth keeping an eye on through the process. Maybe it's not going to work out, but Yeah.
Last guy. What does your stuff have on Nick Nash, who
I don't think I have
ended
Nick
his
Nash in there because he wasn't listed on ESPN.
Oh, come on, dude. The NFL has jumped its shark if they're not willing to give this guy
241 on mock draft database.
Okay. The Chiefs should take him
241.
if he's 241. This guy should be a Kansas City Chief. He
I'll look at, he's literally not someone I've done any work on. So
32%, 45% dominator rating. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you. This man is an FCS merchant. His best games in his career came against FCS schools. 9 for 126 and 1 against Boise State. But yeah, he crushed a bunch of shitty, which are actually not even listed in the RotoViz database. They don't even have these games. Which, yes, that's why his profile's weird. He played quarterback for 3 years. That is true.
Oh,
yeah,
that makes me more interested for sure.
I think I'm gonna end up like way over my skis on him in everything, because you make these bets more often than not. I think you win when guys have just weird outlet. Now, sometimes it ends up being like Luke McCaffrey,
right?
Where it didn't matter. It was weird. He changed position. Although I don't know, Luke McCaffrey could still happen. Not saying no to the Luke McCaffrey thing yet, but like
that was pretty good.
I think he's gonna run. I think he's gonna test well. And if he, guys end up at San Jose State for a lot of reasons. I don't even know why. Why did Cooper Kupp end up at Eastern Washington? I don't even remember the story. I think it was just that he played at a shitty high school. But if you take one thing away from this incredibly long analysis of all these dudes, I think Nick Nash is good, and I think that big NFL is going to ignore him, and there will be one team, one scout, one someone who's going to be like, I like this guy. I think he's awesome.
I'm excited to dig more into him. He looks a little Isaiah Hodgins-y to me, which I know breaks the rule of comps where you're supposed to compare everyone to a star at the next level. But
I think we should not. I literally wonder if this is a good game. Will the Nick Nash comps have a name that anyone remembers? Yeah, he is like 1 billion years old. Nick Nash is. And in fact, Luke McCaffrey is on the Nick Nash comp list. Yeah.
Well, Ricky Pearsall's there.
So it's basically it's all the old guys. It's just it's all the old guys.
Mm-hmm. Well, give him a draft pick. Give him like
let's just see 100. Let's give him. I don't know. What do you think he weighs? You think 210? And let's give him a 4 or 5. He looks tall. He probably weighs 210.
Yeah, he's tall.
Cortland Sutton would be the super mega high end comp, and Cortland Sutton went to SMU, so not a Power 5 program, either. Yes, Neil is very fun. Ruvelt, come on, don't hit us with a Rube. Michael Wilson, Cedric Tillman, Des Fitzpatrick. I would take these.
I was really hoping Hodgins would show up here. Make him a 6th round pick and see if we get Hodgins.
Oh, definitely we will.
Put him like 155 or whatever.
180.
Yeah.
Sure, that's 6th round. Okay, I definitely do not want Devon Vele. First, I don't know what it is, Pat. No, we didn't. We got Junior Hemingway. People, a guy in chat was asking about Jalen Royals, and I told him we'd get there. So this is Jalen Royals from Utah State. I completely lost the point I was about to make.
Jalen Royals looks okay in my state. Kind of another 3rd round rookie pick type of guy.
Just the Devon Vele thing. I don't know why this is. I don't know if this is specific to me. I get the most mentions, and people are just mentioning Devon Vele to me once per stream. I don't know what it is. This guy just all the time. just all the time, this 26-year-old rookie for the Denver Broncos, who's just like immediately going to get replaced by, Royals did get hurt. He looks like a guy I'll be pretty interested in if he's a 3rd round pick in the NFL, and if he's a 6th round pick, I'll basically forget he exists.
He actually pops a little bit for me with 3rd round draft capital. He's an early declare, pretty productive.
Early declare from Utah State after a 38% and a 39% dominator rating is pretty crazy.
Good yards per route run as well. The red flag for me would be, so he had a 2.42 yards per route run. And one of the things with the small school guys is sometimes you'll see them have bad yards per route run to get to that. This would be the Jalen Reagor issue, which I wish I had known at the time because I liked Reagor. But he had really good market share numbers, terrible yards per route run. And it's just like, we're just going to feed this dude. The offense kind of sucked. You're the best of bad options. What Royals has is that he was efficient. So he wasn't really the best about it. He was just good.
He's just good.
The issue that you do see is the same thing with Burden, where a lot of his yak came on behind the line of scrimmage. 43% of his career yak came on behind the line of scrimmage targets. But 39% of his career yards, which is a high mark, came on 20-plus yard targets. And he had a 61% contested catch rate on 20-plus yard targets. And he looks pretty fast. So
he's smashing a team that made the college football playoffs right now. Two touchdowns against Boise State.
As a deep threat, he looks pretty intriguing. So you're like, the production was probably inflated by gadget usage.
Yeah.
That is always hard to project as something that'll translate. So that's a concern. But
you have to be so good to get gadget usage in the NFL.
You really do.
Yeah. Play is too valuable, you know.
It's so true. Yeah. But he, I think, has a role at the NFL level. I think he's a legit deep threat as long as he tests well. And it's pretty correlated, right? Like if he tests well, he'll get drafted day 2. So, you know, as a best, I'm trying to think who's a guy like this has actually hit recently, by the way. It's not the kind of the deep threat. What's he weigh? He's not huge.
Robbie Anderson. But Byron Pringle was the name that immediately jumped to my mind as a comp.
Mooney, I guess.
Mooney. Yeah. You know who he's reminding me of? Something in the name, maybe. Do you remember Jalen Strong?
Oh, yeah.
Arizona State.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me pull up his comp. Let me pull up Jalen Royals.
Johnny Knox. Wow. I mean, that is a different lifetime, brother.
Johnny Knox.
I don't have. Let's assume. Okay, I'll do pick 90. We'll see if anything changes with like good draft capital. Michael Gallup. That's actually kind of a good one.
That's pretty good.
Michael Gallup.
So his Bennett, top comps for me: Traquan Smith, A.D. Mitchell, A.J. Jenkins, Jalen Polk, Torrey Smith.
Wow,
that'd be a good one. Rashee Rice. That would be interesting because Rashee Rice was used differently in college to how he ended up being used as a pro. And maybe the gadget usage would kind of indicate some yak stuff in the way that Rice has been used. Paris Campbell, there you go, your kind of gadget stuff. Carlos Henderson and Devin Duvernay. Those are all pretty equally strong comps. Traquan Smith is the strongest comp.
So now we're basically the guys who can like stick around in the NFL for a while, but just don't have the ability to generate any significant fantasy usage. This is
probably what he is.
This is the last dude that I for sure wanted to mention on the very first show. I don't have a sense of how the NFL is going to value him, but Torrey Horton Jr. was just like a very good college player. These are like the hardest type of guys to evaluate. These guys who crush at schools that just suck. Like what is the value of that? Like the last 3 guys we mentioned, Nick Nash and stuff, but like this dude goes 57% dominator rating, 32% dominator rating, 29% dominator rating. Actually at the same school that produced Trey McBride, by the way. I don't know if that matters to any of us, but I just thought he was a very good college player. I really liked watching him play, and the NFL probably won't like him very much. But if they do, I mean, it's like Colorado State was awful. Like I believe they were one of the worst teams in all of FBS. So
now
Torrey Horton,
he's pretty interesting. Again, with draft capital, this is where these receivers, if they don't get draft capital, it's just so much harder. You know, we obviously we've had guys like Puka and Amon-Ra or just day 3 picks, but even there, we're talking about
Nick Nash. There
picks.
It is. January 13. Nick Nash is your Puka Nacua 2025. There you go. You got it you got the next Puka on January, folks.
There you go. Torrey Horton, I do think is an intriguing later round guy. Maybe he's kind of your Robbie Anderson.
He looks so skinny.
He's skinny, yeah.
You don't.
But he's his profile. He looks like a pure deep threat with a little bit of schemed usage behind the line of scrimmage. His 41% of his career yardage came on deep targets. He only had a 21% contested target rate on deep targets, which is really low. So most of his deep targets were uncontested, which is nice. He's getting open, right? That's the idea. 58% contested catch rate on his contested deep targets. So he can win at the catch point, but he also doesn't always have to. He's not reliant on that, kind of what the numbers would show there. So he's, and he's tall. He's 6'2". So you would hope that maybe he's like a burner and can be like a true downfield threat. I don't know. I was going to test.
I was going to say, I don't know if he'll be a burner. He doesn't.
You need him. You need him to be a burner. I think you need him to be like 4.4-ish. This
is probably not a big board play.
No, I don't think it's a big board play. I think it's a rookie draft play.
Like Jalen McMillan, you could get in the 18th round of the big board the whole time. Yeah. I think in the big board we should be betting on draft capital. Yeah, you should be trying to be directionally accurate on draft capital instead of directionally accurate on skill. There'll be time to be directionally accurate on skill later. We will do some more sleepers. The thing with the running backs is like anytime we spend talking about these guys, if they're a UDFA, is not helpful. But we will get into the running backs. All right. I think once we get to Torrey Horton, we can probably call it. Are there
any other? Well, do you want to talk the quarterbacks quickly or not?
Sure. Yeah, I don't have anywhere to be.
All right.
So
go ahead.
I like Cam Ward a little bit better, simply because I think he'll probably run a little bit in the NFL. That's basically it. I think he will run. I don't think Shedeur will run at all, which is not to say that Shedeur can't do it. He just didn't. So I don't think
How big is Shedeur, you think?
He looks really skinny. But
I've seen him listed at 215, and I've seen people say they think he's sub 200. So that to me is, I think weight matters a lot, especially for fantasy. We don't, the guys who are just so skinny, it really limits what they're going to do. Unless you have like an insane rushing profile like Jaden Daniels, who was admittedly too much of a coward on. I thought he'd get hurt because he's so skinny.
He did get hurt, man.
He did get hurt, yeah, but he overcame it. He looks awesome.
So if you guys aren't woke, basically why Cam Ward, you never heard of him and then you did hear of him, is he went to Incarnate Ward, FCS school, did great there. Transferred to Washington State, did great there. I guess he didn't come out last year because the quarterback class was so strong and he just wasn't going to be a first-round pick. So he stayed another year. Miami gave him a shit ton of NIL money, like more than he would have made as a first-round pick. And they also limited his rushing, though. He went from 8 rushing touchdowns, 5 rushing touchdowns. The yards per carry, obviously, is deterred by the sacks. Down to 58 rushes. He just ran way less. But basically, I think Cam Ward can run. How does he look from a data perspective for you?
Pretty bad. The running stuff, he he's okay there because of touchdowns. So you get let's see, he had career touchdowns. He had 17. That's pretty solid, but he's not like that much of a runner. One of the things that I think is pretty helpful to look at is kept clean scramble rate. He's at 2.9% there, which is really low. It's Shador's at 5.9%. So, he's significantly lower than Shador, is not really seen as much of a runner. 2.9%. That's similar to, I guess one of the upside cases would be that's what Dak had. And he became more of a runner in the pros.
I could see Shador kind of being like Dak. Everyone's like, "Oh, this guy stinks." He's just, and then like I don't think
Ward had the.
I don't think Cam Ward and Shador are bad. Like that is not my premise. Is not these guys have no hope. I don't see it at all. There's no way they can be good NFL quarterbacks. But what I think is they're just bad bets to be literally the number 1 or the number 2 pick, which is what it looks like they're going to be. You know what I'm saying? Like I understand
how I feel. Yeah,
I understand a team taking a shot on them, but the number 1 pick is just crazy, I think, for these guys.
That's how I feel. I think they're going to be overdrafted in real life. And then I don't think, when I say pretty bad, my stuff is I'm a fantasy analyst. I'm looking at like how these guys are going to do well in fantasy. And Cam Ward didn't scramble at a high rate. He wasn't used as a design runner. He's used around the goal line a little bit, but largely not used as a design runner. He didn't have like a lot of big time deep throws. He's not like a particularly aggressive type of passer. He also did make mistakes. Like when he got off his first read and stuff, he made he had a pretty high mistake rate there. He's an okay thrower to the middle of the field, not amazing. And so you think about like, how do guys in the NFL level become fantasy powerhouses? The easiest way is running, which, he probably will have some touchdowns, but I don't know that he's going to be like a true dual threat. That's not really his profile.
Kind of like Joe Burrow, 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, and you're like doing cartwheels.
Burrowy for sure. He's not like immobile or anything, but he's not a fantasy dual threat by that standard, right?
Yeah.
And then, okay, what's the next way? Well, down like 20 plus yard throws, being able to operate a deep passing game is really helpful. We've seen, Carr produce like some good fantasy seasons and stuff, just like by being an immobile guy. Chucking it. Like, are you willing to chuck it? He's not. I think he's pretty willing, but
he's very accurate. One thing I do like about him is that is just a sense. I don't like, we can check the data for that, but I just know from watching him, he was always awesome for fantasy in college. Like he was like super, you just had to play him in fantasy in college. So I've just watched a lot of him play, and he is just like the dude is just very accurate throwing the ball.
I've heard Jordan Love comps, which, I think that if I miss on Ward and he's better than I think, it probably because I think he's like a kind of a gunslinger mentality.
Yes.
So, even if the throws aren't perfect, he's just like willing to do it a lot. And and that would have me, intrigued by him. Just the mentality, I think, is important to have. So that has me a little intrigued on him for sure.
I mean, look at some of these throws up the seam. These are like not easy throws against like high, like that arm angle right there. That's a really. Throw. You don't think that's a good throw?
No, I mean the guy he did not put it on the receiver there.
Well, I mean, his do you know do you want to hear a funny story? His tight end, one of his tight ends, was 29 years old. It's just very Cam McCormick. It's just very funny. he was an 8th year senior.
The third way would be to be like one of these guys who's just operating a really, really high volume, efficient passing game, in the kind of like, in one of these Shanahan type systems. And
that to me feels more in line with what he could do.
I think that's more like Shador if Shador kind of has Tua vibes to me a little bit.
Yeah,
He's more
Ward
lovey
Ward
to me,
Ward
like
might want
Jordan
to
Love
get out of
style.
the system too much. That he might just be like, dude, come on, I want to play.
He's freelancing, that I think that's where we're excited actually, is that he's kind of he's a playmaker.
Really low interceptions, very
Mhm.
high touchdown to interception rate, which I like. What is Shadur's sack stuff? Because that was one of the things watching him. I'd be like, can we just stop taking all these sacks, bro?
So let's see, sacks. He had, where is it?
I feel like his pressure to sack ratio would be bad.
21%, which is not good, but not horrible.
Okay.
And Ward is actually 20%. That's a minor red flag. To me, the sacks are something that can be an indication that you're not reading the field well. Zach Wilson was at 22%, for example. And it can be something that kind of kills your career. Will Levis was at 25%. Malik Willis was at 26%. Sam Howell was at 27%. Justin Fields is at 29%. Like, if you just cannot stop taking sacks, it will either kill your draft capital or kill your career. Desmond Ridder was at 24, which probably a bit of both there, as a sack taker who also can't read the field. But Shador is only at 21. Geno was at 20. Joe Burrow.
You know what? I could totally see Geno for Shador.
He could be Geno.
I could totally see a Geno style.
Geno's probably a pretty good comp.
Geno, I think, is a really good comp. Like, mobile, but not a runner. Like, good thrower, but not like super perceptive. Like, that is not you don't build the offense around like, oh, we got to make sure that we really show off his arm talent or whatever. But like, some of these are just like very impressive off platform throws and things. Yeah.
But that's kind of the quarterback class it's like, oh, this guy might be Geno, or this guy might be kind of Jordan Love.
Yeah.
One thing with Cam Ward, it's harder for me to see him being like in an NFL offense that's really built around his passing, like that.
Well, it's
like
so funny because the way he plays, you just don't even like someone in the comments said it like, oh, why does he just look so nonchalant? He just like gets the ball and he just like stands there. It's just like, it's just not going to work in the NFL. You are just going to be under fire. You're going to have to be deciding quicker.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me. And you don't see that with Shador. Shador is like always moving around, always a bit like he's evading. He's on it. He's moving his feet. His footwork is really good. And probably Shador has had the greatest coaching. He probably has had a private quarterback coach since he was like 5, like he's had every possible mental advantage you can have. He probably has had a VR helmet to practice in, like the one that they use for Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
He name an advantage. He's had it. Like,
that's a good point.
Kind of like buying on that. Another thing, it's very popular right now to be like, Cam Ward, dude, he stinks. Shador, they stink. The Shadoo. I've heard that one thrown around. Well, here's what you're doing. You are betting against the son of one of the 10 most athletic guys to ever play football, a literal Hall of Famer who is also an above average regular in another sport. It's just like not going to surprise me if he just turns out to be really good. Just like oh, actually, the candidate whose father is a Hall of Famer, turns out he actually ended up being pretty good. There just was no way to predict this. Not saying I think that's the case. Here's what I'll ask for you. Shador is a 14th round pick in the big board. We in or we out?
I think now where did he go? What's the landing spot?
Well, he's a Titan or a Raider, right? Or a Titan or a
or Brown.
Oh, here's the thing. Titan or Brown. Here's the thing. We already established this. Jerry Rice was actually too good of an NFL wide receiver. He didn't have enough time to teach Brendan Rice how to be a wide receiver. Yeah. We established this last year.
He played till he was 40, man. Like he just wasn't there.
Dion, very, very good dad.
Like,
very
we're just attacking
involved.
Jerry Rice as a father. We have no idea. He could have been like the most attentive father of all time.
I mean, can you be more of an involved father than being the head coach of your son's football team? Don't think you can be a more involved dad than that. So
that's true.
Yeah, there we go.
It's more about Dion than Jerry. It's possible he's a giant. Titan.
Dude, if he's a giant, you're just like, well, he's just gonna get 12 free points a game from throwing to neighbors. So yeah, send it.
I think I'm in on Shedeur as a giant for sure, and probably as a Titan, and probably as a Brown.
I think I'm just
in about where I'd be like, ugh. But dude, like, we're gonna have to take on some bench risk from some of these quarterbacks next year. And I'll tell you another guy. Like every year you get new veterans who pop up as bench risks. This year it's going to be Carr. Carr is a major, and if you're trying to do the Saints backdoor stacks because you got locked out, you better have week 17 squared away because I don't think Carr is going to be playing. He's they can get out of it after the end of the year.
He'll just be hurt again for like the 19th consecutive time.
But like you look at Richardson. Is Anthony Richardson making it to week 17 next year? Like probably not.
I don't know if Anthony Richardson's making it to week 1, brother.
He might, yeah, fair enough. So I think both these rookies will be guys I take more of in best ball than in dynasty. I think spending.
I'll have like none of these guys in dynasty. I'm thinking.
Yeah, in dynasty, this would be like the classic year to like go get, go trade that first round rookie pick. And
I think I'm gonna be trading
103.
Yeah.
That's how because I think one of these guys is going to go number 1.
That was a nice little run. That was a nice little run right there.
Yeah, I mean Cam Ward is like he can be pretty exciting, and he's got fans. So I think you could probably get in the quarterbacks who's taken number 1 overall in the draft. Like that should net you some pretty good stuff in a dynasty trade.
I wish either of them had run a little bit more. Like Milroe is the best runner in the class, but like I don't even know if Milroe is going to be is Milroe even going to be a round 3 pick?
I think so. I think he will be.
I mean,
Malik Willis was a round 3 pick.
I guess Malik Willis was a round 3 pick. I mean,
I think he might go second.
Milroe is tough in the big board because he is definitely not playing 17 games, but very, very like Richardson, but way worse somehow. Very good. Very good fantasy profile.
Consigliere says he traded for Jahmyr Gibbs in a 2026 first for Nico in a 2025 first. That's great.
Yeah. That's really good.
That. Yeah. Let's get the outside of the 101. Jeanty is awesome.
Jeanty's locked. I mean, I think this is it's honestly just a very C- class. Something that could obviously throw it on this head though is like if the Bills, Bengals, Chiefs, and 49ers all take a skill position player, then we flipped it on our heads.
We're back. We're so back.
We're so back. Yeah, it's just it'll really depend on, and the Bengals will be in a great position to take a skill position player, and maybe those good teams will be too actually, because it's not that good of a class. You know what I'm saying? It's not that good of a class, so the wide receiver 3 might not go to pick 32.
I don't know that much about I know the top of the class. Like I was listening to NFL Stock Exchange, their tackle podcast, and Connor Rogers had like all the top guys who are like the top offensive linemen. He's like, I think they're probably guards, and then all the top tackles were guys who like don't have as much hype right now. Maybe that changes with the combine and stuff, but it's like that's not great. That if you're like, but I don't know enough about how deep some of the like solid positions go. Like I'm not sure like how good the guard class is overall, or like
I got
tackle
no clue.
class or anything like that. Yeah. I really don't know.
I'm just not there yet.
And I say that to say like I don't know if at the end of the first round teams are going to be like, oh man, this this non-skill position class actually is really deep in these spots, so let's scoop those guys. Or if it's just not that great of a class, and we see some of these receivers get taken higher than expected. Edge classes. Chris says edge is really good.
Chiefs don't need an edge. Chiefs need well, I hope the Chiefs get Savion Williams.
Everyone needs an edge.
Everyone needs an edge. That's true.
Ball's Life says, dude, I fucking love Milrow. I know he sucks, but I don't care. That's kind of where I'm at.
That's kind of where I'm at with like Nick Nash. You know, I know some of these guys. I know some of these guys suck. Well, Nick Nash might not suck, but some of these guys that I like do suck. All right, Pat, man.
All right.
We did it. That was a good first look. You guys got 2 hours and 45 minutes of Karane's flu game, the Dayquil. You know, it did its job. It did its job, buddy. What can the people anticipate from Legendary Upside? When is the sidekick going to be good to go for the mitten returns too?
We're not. I don't believe we're supporting the returns contest. Those
actually
beyond the scope. Yeah, actually, I don't think we are.
Oh man, I don't know how you could possibly look at these contests and not just want to win more.
I'll talk to the guys, but that's the turnaround on getting something that would actually work is tough. But
okay, all right. Well,
we're hard at work on the big board. You know, getting the big board stuff ready to go, so we can hit the ground running there. Which is part of why I wanted to talk rookies with you, because I've got so much cramming to do to get these guys ranked.
Savion Williams, brother.
Yeah, Savion Williams. 19th round. What are 19th round picks for if not Savion Williams?
That's what I'm saying. Who looks the most like Christian Watson? Jalen Royal, probably.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. There you go. You are a Packer, Jalen Royal. All right, boys. That'll do it for us here. Please like and subscribe. Comment below if you made it to hour 2, hour 3. Comment below your favorite rookie to take in the big board in 2025. And Pat and I will be back with you very soon. It's Short King Summer, dude. It just feels like no one in fantasy sports ever learns anything. Does he mistime it, or is Brock Bowers just a grown man? Brock Bowers is just a grown man. Dare I say, Rich, football might be back. In the words of Lane Johnson, this offense looks constipated.